Good afternoon, tea sippers. Good afternoon. What it do, what it do, what it do? How you doing? Hey, tea sippers. Come on in. Breaking news reporter pulls out brass knuckles. Lord. Are they clowning? they doing the fool. Okay, welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by community guidelines and abide by AunTeaFee platform guidelines. We don't troll over here. We are respectful and we speak to the platform host before we speak to anyone else. Okay. Hey, Willie Spencer. Lord, they out there clowning. I'm gonna have to do something right there. But anyway. Yeah, it's going down in the courthouse. Barb. He went from mistrial yesterday to can we strike everybody's testimony? Diddy done lost his mind. See, this is what happens. This is what I tell you. When you let fools get away with foolishness. I wasn't supposed to say that. When you don't check that it. When you see that it will continue to grow. They would think that they getting over. Baby, please check it when you see it. Because this fool here, foolishness is crazy as hell. He want to strike everybody. Cassie, Capricorn, security guard, Kid Cudi, High Dime. Hello, I don't know what these crowns are, but hey, shout out to the crowns. All this time I thought I had my super chat and super sticker on. I know I was stressed. I got some rest last night though. Well, did I? Yeah, I got it back. Come on in, y'all, so we can hear. What is this talking about? A reporter pulled out some brass knuckles. Baby, Mia, I wonder before I listen, I've been thinking, could this mystery Mia, could that be Lauren London? Is it Laurie? London. What's his name? Nipsey Hussle's widow girlfriend. Lauren London. Lil Wayne baby mama. Yeah, when I look that way, that's where I go and pull my thoughts. You know, when it's kind of stuck, I go up there and yank it on down. Then it come to me. But this my good ear. So you see I got this side so I can hear. It's my good eye and my good ear. Gipsy Hustle. Nipsey. It's a Nipsey Russell. Monday, did you come in speaking? Why you trying to be funny? Because you knew her, ain't you? You knew her. Huh? Or you knew her? Nipsey. But just in case I said Gipsy, sometimes I play like that. Nipsey, Gipsy, Diddy, Edie. I mean, sometimes I play like that. Laura, London, Laura. Sometimes I do that on purpose. But you knew her, so you need to act accordingly. So walk your little ass on out, come back in and speak. How about that? Can you do that for me? Because that's the mood I'm in today. Okay, I told you. This is my good ear because I'm Gipsy. And did you speak Monday? before you say anything else, before I remove you today. Did you speak? I said walk your little ass back out and come back in speaking before you say anything else. Now you finna test my gangster? I said before you say anything else, so you tested my gangster. I said speak. I didn't say apologize. That's strike 3. Your funky ass is out. Now what's up? Okay, bye. Y'all say bye to Monday. Come back tomorrow, respectfully. Bye. Who else didn't speak coming in? Y'all better learn where y'all at. You play with me, I play with you, just like that. I ain't Cassie. You ain't gonna mishandle me over here and think you gonna move forward. Okay. Okay. Y'all crazy. Y'all crazy as hell. Oh, I see. I see what the problem is. You better come bring your ass in here speaking. Now. Okay. Now are we ready? Come in, hit the like button. Like, share, subscribe, join the membership, support the platform. Okay. If you have any questions or you want my opinion, put it on a super chat, super sticker, and I will be happy to answer. Don't come in here speaking to nobody before you speak to me. Okay? Okay. We clear? Are we clear? We clear? Are we on the same page? Okay. Are y'all ready? Can y'all hear me? I need a check, a thumbs up or something. I need some acknowledgement to let me know that you hear me. Why are they having brass knuckles? What in the world is going on? Mia, take the stand. Can y'all hear me? What is yo? Oh, Lord. I don't know why I was tripping and didn't have it on there so I could, who's been updated? Where my T-sip is at? Diddy's X. So Deonte was still on the stand today. He sashayed his ass up and back up in there today. And Diddy want everybody testimony struck, removed. He tried to get a mistrial, y'all, and he couldn't get that mistrial. So now he want everybody testimony removed. Who do you think you are? You still think you operating bad boys and girls? What is it? Diddy, Diddy, porno. Everybody do what I say I do in baby oil. And baby oil, we trust. You think you running everything. You think you directing this? Wrong answer. Wrong answer. Where am I going to start? Where is, oh, girl. Ooh, and all of them talking now. Every one of them talking this morning. I'm waiting for y'all to get my likes up. That's the mood I'm in right now. Because old boy tried to come in and play with me. And I ain't feel like playing. Why I can't see y'all? Can y'all still hear me? Can y'all hear me? Give me a 1 if you can hear me, or a thumbs up or something.
My hunt to find the perfect matte lippy is finally over. This is the Thrive Cosmetics Sheer Strength Moisturizing Matte Lip.
Go somewhere else. Yeah, that's so true, and it seems like that the defense will just be waiting for that moment. But it seems like for most of the day, the prosecution is going to have their really hand at Mia right now, and I think
I think Mia is Lauren London.
You know, we're detailing what she saw and some of the abuse maybe to Cassie as well, but.
Hey,
Is
Debbie
the jury
Hudson.
wondering, okay, if you saw this stuff, why did not anyone in this whole operation say anything, you know, to law enforcement? They could have just said, hey, there's some really bad stuff going on here.
Yes, Mike, that's like the $1 million question here. All these witnesses that the prosecution
was tested yesterday. She worked for Diddy for 15 years on and off.
Oh, well, nah,
She did
that
a
ain't
number of
her.
Different jobs for him.
Defense says, isn't it true? She said video.
Spending so much time on the arson, this is suffered, and I think that's going to be telling. And we're probably going to see her as early as tomorrow. We thought maybe
Who was running?
Continental. Nash says, I saw it in person. When her makeup would wear off, you could see it. The judge then says, let the defense ask you the questions. Nash says, Diddy stormed Cassie's place, yanked her by the hair and beat her. Cassie hit her head on a bed frame and bled. Nash and Mia tried to stop him. When asked if Diddy kept kicking her, Nash said yes. Combs' defense says, you read these after Cassie says, this N is wasted. We both did the same. Nash says, is there a lot of people there? Oh, it's talking about a Gwen Stefani song. Defense says, he said, take your broke ass home and ride into the sunset. Nash, and we did. Defense team says, did she mention to you having a threesomes with other men? Nash says, no, she didn't tell me.
I think they slipped yesterday and made mention like
May 10th, 2025.
Deonte may have been one of them workers that entertained with
I told them he would tape her on the phone.
porn.
Combs' defense says, isn't it true? She said videos were from her phone. Nash said he would record her on her phone. I stand firm on that. The defense says, you say, Mr. Combs says, you won't do this one thing for me. Nash replies, yes. The defense then says, you said you saw Mr. Combs pointing out in Cassie's face in the dragon, right? But you never told the government, right? The first you said was at this trial. Nash says, I guess so. I gave them very little by phone. She said she didn't want to go. Combs' defense says, you helped pick her clothes for court. Nash says, she couldn't fit anything. She needed clothes. The defense says, for the pregnancy? Nash says, right. Defense says, on that Friday after she finished, she called you and said, I'm done.
Pregnancy.
Nash says, it wasn't like that. The defense says, did you get Cassie super high? Nash says, what? No, I did not. The judge says, Mr. Nash. Defense says, this 29th birthday, you say she packed sex toys in her duffel bag from her bedroom, right? Nash says, correct. Defense says, Mr. Combs didn't say grab the sex toys. Nash then says, they were going. Defense says, on the golf cart, let's talk about Las Vegas, New Year's 2016, 2017. You said you were told Cassie was sleeping all day. Nash says, correct. Donaldson, defense says, put up an exhibit for the parties only. What's this? Nash says, Cassie. Then Combs' defense says, the low-budget producer you mentioned was there. Nash says, yes, right next to me, snoring. Defense says, you say Cassie.
Y'all help me reach my goal today,
coming over and
please.
asked you to leave. Nash says, both of us. The defense says, your reaction was, Nash says, yes, and sighed. Combs' defense says, you saw a man walking around knocking on the door and let him in? Nash says, yes. Defense says, they were not drugs, right? Nash says, we were doing them in our separate places. Once I started working, I just started going. I was packing my 10 body bags, he said. continue to follow the very latest here for you on Live Now from Fox Worldwide.
Fox, I'm Andrew Kraft. Kind of a gloomy night there in New York City. Live picture there in Midtown. You can see there the Empire State Building. Well, we have a...
Nash says, okay, you got some names in here. Defense says, just go
Thank
ahead.
you,
Nash says,
Macy.
where are you going? Defense says, secret trip out town. Nash says, girl. Nash says, good friends don't pry. That's not my method. I just replied, girl. Comes to defense says, highlight the green part. Cassie is telling you October 30th, 2013, after the incident with the cut on the face, she says, I've already been turning up too much. Holmes' defense says, you say you saw her with a black eye on FaceTime around the time of the Intercontinental. Nash says, I saw it in person when her makeup would wear off. You could see it. The judge then says, let the defense ask you the questions. Nash says, Diddy stormed Cassie's place, yanked her by the hair and beat her. Cassie hit her head on a bed frame and bled. Nash and Mia tried to stop him. When asked if Diddy kept kicking her, Nash said yes. Combs' defense says, you
High five.
Cassie says,
Macy
this
sent
ends.
high five.
Both did the same. Nash says, is there a lot of people there?
I got to stop. Thank you, Macy. Thank you, Macy. High five. High five. 1, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Let's go.
Oh, it's talking about a Gwen Stefani song. Defense says he
I was
said,
trying to get back to see who was getting in the car.
And ride into the sunset. Nash, and we did. Defense team says, did she mention to you having a threesomes with other men? Nash says, no, she didn't tell me.
Mm.
The defense says, Mr. Nash, read that to yourself, then lift up. On May 10th, 2025, you told the government the videos came from her phone. Nash says, no.
Yeah, I'm back at Debbie Hudson.
On the phone.
Thank God.
Defense says, isn't it true? She said
Thank
videos
you,
were from her
Lord,
phone. Nash said he would record her on her
you
phone. I stand
done.
firm on that. The defense says, you say Mr. Combs says you won't do this one thing for me. Nash replies, yes. The defense then says, you said you saw Mr. Combs pointing out in Cassie's face in the Dragon, right? But you never told the government, right? The first you said was at this trial. Nash says, I guess so. I gave them very little by phone. She said she didn't want to go. Combs' defense says, you helped pick her clothes for court. Nash says she couldn't fit anything. She needed clothes. The defense says for the pregnancy. Nash says, right. Defense says on that
Pregnancy.
Friday after she finished, she called you and said, I'm done. Nash says it wasn't like that. The defense says, did you get Cassie super high? Nash says, what? No, I did not. The judge says, Mr. Nash. Defense says, this 29th birthday, you say she packed sex toys in her duffel bag from her bedroom, right? Nash says, correct. Defense says, Mr. Combs didn't say grab the sex toys. Nash then says, they were going. Defense says, on the golf cart, let's talk about Las Vegas, New Year's 2016, 2017. You said you were told Cassie was sleeping all day. Nash says, correct. Donaldson, defense says, put up an exhibit for the parties only. What's this? Nash says, Cassie. Then Combs' defense says, the low-budget producer you mentioned was there. Nash says, yes, right next to me, snoring.
Low-budget producer.
Cassie told you another man was coming over and asked you to leave? Nash says, both of us. The defense says, your reaction was, Nash says, yes, and sighed. Combs' defense says, you saw a man walking around knocking on the door and let him in? Nash says, yes. Defense says, they were not drugs, right? Nash says, we were doing them in our separate places.
Okay.
Once I started working, I just started going. I was packing
Christian
my
and his
10
mama.
body bags, he said. We'll continue to follow the very latest here for you on Live Now from Fox Worldwide.
Fox, I'm Andrew Kraft. Kind of a gloomy night there in New York City. Live picture there in Midtown. You can see there the Empire State Building. Well, we have a lot to get to with what happened today in the Diddy trial. It was day 11 of testimony. Our colleague, Fox's CB Cotton, has more details. Let's listen.
Sean Diddy Combs' lawyers moving for a mistrial after they accused prosecutors of trying to suggest the music mogul had evidence linked to an arson incident destroyed. A judge quickly denied the bid and asked jurors to disregard testimony from a fire investigator.
Whenever the jury has heard something, you really can't unring the bell. What the defense attorneys are doing is also preserving appellate issues, where they will go back and say that this testimony should not have been admitted.
It comes days after rapper Kid Cudi testified that he believed Combs was involved in two incidents, a break-in at his Los Angeles home and a fire set to his Porsche. Combs has denied being involved. Today, an LAPD officer testified he saw a car near Cudi's house on the day of the break-in that was registered to Diddy's production company.
They don't actually have to show that Sean Combs himself engaged in the arson, but the fact that he was part of the enterprise and one of the predicate acts of the racketeering offense, it's helpful to prove that charge.
This week, prosecutors are also questioning a former employee who claims Diddy forced himself on her sexually. She is using the alias Mia, and during opening statements, prosecutors said she wanted to take her secrets to the grave. Diddy has pleaded not guilty to all the charges,
So he
and
forced
his attorneys have
himself
said
on
all
Mia.
encounters were consensual. Prosecutors say they expect to finish their case a week early. In New York, CB Cotton, Fox News.
He forced
CB, thanks so
himself
much. In the
on
meantime
me.
here, let's
Okay.
bring into the conversation right now our friend, legal analyst, and former federal prosecutor, Nima Rahmani. He joins me. Nima, always good to see you here. So I got to ask this. I think a lot of people are kind of wondering to themselves, scratching their head. On day 11 of testimony, pretty early on in the trial altogether, the defense makes a play for a mistrial. It's swiftly denied. Why make the play? Are they throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, or are they trying to establish some type of predicate? What say you?
Well, they're doing both. It's sort of
Hold
pitch
on.
high and inside. They
Let's
want to
get
put the
here.
prosecution on their heels. This is what aggressive defense lawyers do. They go into offense, and they want to put the prosecution on the defense. Really, it wasn't necessarily something any judge is going to grant, because if they're...
Let's go here.
After my car wreck, there was a lot I didn't know.
I didn't know a lawyer would help organize my medical records and bill.
Okay, what is this up here? Hold on. Oh, this was 4 hours ago. Okay, hold on. Hold on, y'all. I'm trying to get there. I am trying to get there.
Those are two areas where
Let's go. It's coming. If I keep going back too far, we're going to go around in circles. Let's go. Who sent me a message? What you saying? Oh, Lord, come on.
and the judge kind of seemed like the process may be going longer, so they're trying to figure it all out, particularly with the witness today, Mia, alleged victim. You can just feel just the nervous testimony that she had taught.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it right there. We just going to have to wait because I want to catch it from the beginning. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You right, Debbie. He is a sick son of a beep. Come on.
Yeah, and
There. Let's go.
And we're back. Sorry about that, everybody. Yep, technical difficulties. And no, I know we're getting a lot of questions online about why our feed dropped out. We got a question from one of our viewers, Danny. Diddy got Jesse too? Not exactly. Listen, technical difficulties. Happy to be back here. We are covering right now the Sean Combs case live. They've taken a break. We are going to be taking your questions in real time as they come back.
Did
we
you
will be
ever
breaking it
call
down
the police?
in real time. And by the way, just to give you an insight about what's been happening,
We got
a lot of scheduling
onto
issues
a
between the
paddle
prosecution, the judge, the
board,
defense.
and went out
want to stay on
on the
schedule,
water.
flying people in and out, witnesses.
Oh, wow.
The direct is maybe going longer, the crosses may be going longer. So they're trying to figure it all out, particularly with the witness today,
Went out on the
Mia,
water.
alleged
Puff
victim number 4.
was
Let's
on
talk
the
about it. Let me
beach
bring in right
screaming
now
at us.
Elizabeth Milner, our long crime reporter, who is in that
It was
courtroom
flat,
for the testimony of
and we
Mia.
went out.
Elizabeth, so good to see you.
Puff got
Such an important witness, right? Because
smiling,
this is somebody who
smiling
is
on the
going by a
beach.
pseudonym. This is alleged victim number 4 in this case.
Whew.
And she has described not only what her working relationship was like with Sean Combs, what this environment
Excuse
was like,
me, but that's
she
his
claims that
second
she,
line.
was a victim
That's
of
why
both
he keep
physical
acting. Oh, that's why he
and
acting up. You
sexual
ain't never
abuse.
lying.
Talk to us about what Mia has said so far.
He feel that defeat.
Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. So yeah, Mia came onto the witness stand right after Deonte Nash. So she comes in, and I'm going to be very kind of careful as far as how I'm describing her because she is testifying under a pseudonym, and you can tell a little bit inside the courtroom why she is doing that. When she walks inside the courtroom, she keeps her head down. She doesn't look towards the defense table. She doesn't really look at us in the gallery. She just makes, again, a beeline to the witness stand. And even while she's testifying, Jesse, she's very soft-spoken. She's very quiet often at times, so you can feel just her apprehension just about everything as far as testifying goes. Even while answering the prosecution's question, she's keeping her head down from what I can see over in the gallery, but you can just feel just the nervousness from her as far as testifying. And even when she gets off the stand, she doesn't look at the defense table. She just walks past the gallery. Her family and her support system go right after her, and then she goes over into a private room. But just as far as just some of the testimony that she had talked about today, she did describe that Diddy did take violence out on her too. Mia described that Diddy would throw things at her. He would throw her against a wall. One time he even slammed her arm into a door and then even sexually assaulted her more than once.
Yeah, and let's just wait for this siren to go down. Very, very busy street. This is somebody we had anticipated, right? Because she's important for multiple reasons. She's important not only to corroborate what Cassie Ventura has said, but if you're talking about a pattern of abuse towards women, put aside the sex trafficking count for, I hear playback in my ear, by the way, putting aside the sex trafficking count for Cassandra Ventura, what we're also talking about is the racketeering charge. And we just got word that Prosecutor Madison Smizer said her direct examination is likely going to take the rest of the day. What do you anticipate she's going to say, Elizabeth, from what we've heard so far?
Well, I definitely think they're going to get into more of just the violence that Mia had witnessed while working for Diddy, but also being Cassie's best friend, a role that she still has to this day. The two are really close friends, something that Deonte Nash even confirmed while he was testifying. But direct examination is expected to last throughout the day. Even right before I came out to chat with you, Jesse, there was a little kind of angst, I would say, from the defense because essentially the government is saying that Mia has to be off the stand by the weekend. So tomorrow is Friday, so they're hoping that they're able to finish her direct examination today, go over to the cross tomorrow. But the problem is that sometimes the cross examinations do take maybe twice as long as the direct testimony, and it's been a kind of a sticking point that a lot of us have been kind of noticing, especially just sitting in the gallery. But Mark Agnifilo kind of took a little bit of offense to just being given a time frame as far as how long this cross-examination goes. And the thing is, Jesse, he's not going to even be the one doing the cross-examination. It's actually going to be Brian Steele doing the cross-examination against Mia, or for Mia, I should say. But the defense was pretty upset about it because they felt like the government was telegraphing the time.
Somebody who is going by a pseudonym. This is alleged victim number 4 in this case. And she has described not only what her working relationship was like with Sean Combs, what this environment was like, but she claims that she, was a victim of both physical and sexual abuse. Talk to us about what Mia said so far.
Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. So yeah, Mia came onto the witness stand right after Deonte Nash. So she comes in, and I'm going to be very kind of careful as far as how I'm describing her, because she is testifying under a pseudonym, and you can tell a little bit inside the courtroom why she is doing that. When she walks inside the courtroom, she keeps her head down. She doesn't look towards the defense table. She doesn't really look at us in the gallery. She just makes, again, a beeline to the witness stand. And even while she's testifying, Jesse, she's very soft-spoken. She's very quiet often at times, so you can feel just her apprehension just about everything as far as testifying goes. Even while answering the prosecution's questions, she's keeping her head down from what I can see over in the gallery, but you can just feel just the nervousness from her as far as testifying. And even when she gets off the stand, she doesn't look at the defense table. She just walks past the gallery. Her family and her support system go right after her, and then she goes over into a private room. But just as far as just some of the testimony that she had talked about today, she did describe that Diddy did take violence out on her too. Mia described that Diddy would throw things at her. He would throw her against the wall. One time he even slammed her arm into a door, and then even sexually assaulted her more than once.
Yeah, and let's just wait for this siren to go down. Very, very busy street. This is somebody we had anticipated, right? Because she's important for multiple reasons. She's important not only to corroborate what Cassie Ventura has said, but if you're talking about a pattern of abuse towards women, put aside the sex trafficking count for, I hear playback in my ear, by the way, putting aside the sex trafficking count for Cassandra Ventura, what we're also talking about is the racketeering charge. And we just got word that Prosecutor Madison Smizer said her direct examination is likely going to take the rest of the day. What do you anticipate she's going to say, Elizabeth, from what we've heard so far?
Well, I definitely think they're going to get into more of just the violence that Mia had witnessed while working for Diddy, but also being Cassie's best friend, a role that she still has to this day. The two are really close friends, something that Deonte Nash even confirmed while he was testifying. But yes, the direct examination is expected to last throughout the day. Even right before I came out to chat with you, Jesse, there was a little kind of angst, I would say, from the defense, because essentially the government is saying that Mia has to be off the stand by the weekend. So tomorrow is Friday, so they're hoping that they're able to finish her direct examination today, go over to the cross tomorrow. But the problem is that sometimes the cross examinations do take maybe twice as long as the direct testimony, and it's been a kind of a sticking point that a lot of us have been kind of noticing, especially just sitting in the gallery. But Mark Agnifilo kind of took a little bit of offense to just being given a time frame as far as how long this cross-examination goes. And the thing is, Jesse, he's not going to even be the one doing the cross-examination. It's actually going to be Brian Steele doing the cross-examination against Mia, or for Mia, I should say. But the defense was pretty upset about it because they felt like the government was telegraphing the time frame for witnesses, especially since the government...
School of Rock. Follow a failed wannabe rock star who decides to earn a bit of cash by posing as a substitute.
This is all for logistics purposes. If we're expecting Mia to not be off the stand by the weekend, then we have to pause our flight scheduling and all of that for the next witnesses that are going to be following up after her. But it seems like from the defense's perspective, they were just really kind of offended just about the time frames that they were given. But the judge kind of pointed out that, yeah, the government is doing this, but they're not doing this as a way to kind of slight the defense. They're doing this as kind of a common courtesy for those logistics purposes. And the judge kind of seemed like he took offense to it as well, too, what the defense was telling him. He was saying that it's common courtesy, and that even the judge wanted to know these things as far as how long the direct will last, possibly how long the cross-examination will last. And so it seems like kind of a sticking point where the defense may feel like they are being kind of constrained to a certain time frame. But there's never been a moment so far that the judge was like, okay, you got to wrap up this cross-examination after an hour. You got to wrap this up in 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. So really, they can just have a free go and just really ask all the questions, maybe questions that they didn't need to ask, but will continue to ask because they have to cross-examine their witness.
I got to talk about Deonte Nash. So obviously we'll continue the conversation with Mia, and there's a lot to break down with our panel of guests. Deonte Nash, important witness, celebrity stylist, right? And he had testified that he was, I mean, him and Mia, the only people that actually stepped in to actually intervene in Sean Combs allegedly assaulting Cassandra Ventura.
Only
talked
ones.
about the threats that Combs
They
made
tried to fight
towards
him back.
Cassandra Ventura, talked about that she didn't want to be a part of freak-offs. Very, very important witness. But then it was time for cross-examination today. I wasn't entirely sure what the cross was about and what were the points they were making, other than the fact I think he's still not only in touch with Cassie, but maybe even supplied her the wardrobe that she wore in court. And I think he was still maintaining some sort of communicative relationship with Sean Combs only until a few years ago. So it becomes a question if all these things happened to him and Cassie, and he claims he was also attacked by Combs, that this might go to his credibility. But where exactly did the cross-examination go today of Deonte Nash?
The cross-examination, just honestly, quite frankly, was all over the place this morning. It's first thing in the morning. It was just kind of a lot this morning, I should say. Even just starting off, Xavier Donaldson tells Deonte Nash, "Good morning, how are you?" And Deonte Nash still has that sass, which I absolutely love, and he responded, "Blessed." And so just as far as just kind of the incidents that occurred when it came to the violence, they brought up the bed frame incident, and that was something that Mia testified as well today too, where they were explaining that they were all over at Cassie's apartment. It was Deonte, it was Mia, it was Cassie. They were helping her pack for this trip, and then all of a sudden they hear a knock or a banging on the door, and it was Diddy looking for Cassie. And so essentially Diddy kind of picks Cassie up from where she is. He throws her down. He's essentially attacking her in front of her friends, her stylist, but also Mia is still working for Diddy at this point. But essentially, at this point, Mia and Deonte do step in. As far as Deonte is concerned, Deonte jumps on Diddy's back. Diddy throws Deonte to the ground. Then when Deonte is on the ground, Mia jumps on Diddy's back to kind of stop him. Then all of a sudden, Cassie is essentially on the ground because she had hit her head and busted her head open on this really pointy, sharp bed frame. There was blood everywhere. It was something that even Mia testified again to today. But just as far as the responses, as far as the response is concerned, I should say, that this was just kind of a really big sticking point, I feel like, as far as this particular incident, because it was so violent, because Cassie drew blood in this incident, or not drew blood, but not necessarily, but instead blood was gushing from her head. Mia had to go and get towels, and what ended up happening was a call was made, and essentially Cassie was taken to a plastic surgeon, and they were told that Cassie was drinking during this, and that it wasn't a violent encounter that had happened that had caused this type of nash or gash, I should say, as far as just the blood and the amount of blood that was taken, or the amount of blood, I should say, that just gushed from her head, essentially. And so they but they essentially said that this incident was because Cassie was drinking. She fell down and hit her head. So that was in regards to just the bed frame incident. But yes, Jesse, to your point, it was definitely one of those sticking out moments, especially because you finally see people stepping in, even kind of in a way attacking Diddy for the most part to get him off of Cassie. But even as far as the end of the cross-examination is concerned, yes, Xavier Donaldson was really asking Deonte Nash just about his communications with Diddy in the years even after he stopped working with them professionally. So this was around kind of the 2019
I started a poll, y'all.
An exhibit photo of this text message.
Have the feds prove RICO racketeering. Let's go.
Deonte didn't tell him that Cassie was seeing the trainer. And who was the trainer? Well, the trainer is Alex Fine, her now husband, who she just had her third child with. And so Diddy used this text message to kind of ask how Cassie was doing, and I think the defense was kind of pointing out that that Diddy still cared about Cassie even after their relationship, because again, this was 2019. They broke up in 2018. All the D names. Deonte reached out to Diddy about Kim Porter's death and even Andre Harrell's death. Andre Harrell was a central figure in Diddy's life. He was somebody who had mentored him, and you could arguably say that Andre Harrell is kind of the reason that Diddy got to the point where he is as far as success is concerned. Maybe Diddy doesn't think that, but really you could kind of argue that in a way. But then we see another text message kind of going back in time a little bit. This one from January 30th of 2016. And this is where the cross-examination ends, where they were kind of implying that Cassie was secretive. She didn't tell Deonte, who she considers to be a best friend, just about the freak-offs, that he didn't know about these freak-offs until 2013 when they were at just a hotel together they were hanging out together, and Diddy was threatening to release these sexually explicit videos of him, and just how it kind of ties back to Deonte saying, like, girl, let him release these videos because he's on them too. It kind of relates to that. And so they ended the cross-examination where Xavier Donaldson asked, "You deeply care for Cassie?" And Deonte responded, "Correct. And she kept major secrets from you." And Deonte Nash, in his Deonte Nash way, was like, "Well, I keep secrets from her too. We don't have to tell each other everything."
Exactly.
Which, do best friends have to tell each other every single aspect of their lives? I mean, not necessarily. It's not necessarily holding a secret, but I feel like what the defense was trying to point out, that this was this big secret that she wouldn't even tell her closest friends that these types of things even happen.
By the way, before I let you go, Elizabeth, you have Deonte Nash, you have Mia. How is the jury reacting to this testimony?
Well, let me tell you, Jesse, today for Mia's testimony, it was a packed courtroom, and so it was really kind of hard to see because of all the bodies in front of me, just their reaction to everything. But so far, it seems like from what I can see, and that's really kind of the tail end of the jury box, is just that these jurors are doing what they've been doing for the past couple of weeks. Is they're taking notes, they're listening. I couldn't see if there was like an emotional reaction, especially as Mia was kind of talking about the bed frame incident, because from Mia's point of view, it seemed like she was very upset recalling this particular piece of testimony. So I couldn't tell if there was an emotional reaction from the jury. And even from Diddy's side over on the defense table, I could barely see his reaction to things. In between heads, sometimes I would see him jotting down notes or shaking his head, that type of thing, especially when it came to Mia flat out saying that Diddy had sexually assaulted her more than once. But as far as just the jury's reaction overall, it's really hard to tell sometimes with them.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we have a question that came in on YouTube from L. Spelunker. Is anyone else acting shocked? Is anyone acting shocked by all of this in the courtroom? His mom, his kids, the jurors? Does Diddy make any noises or movements? So you're kind of giving us a perspective on what we should be seeing in that courtroom and what we're expecting. Elizabeth, I know you have to head back in there. Thank you so much, as always, for your great reporting.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Great detail. We're lucky to have you. Thanks so much, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right, so we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to take your questions. Obviously, a lot to talk about here, including with Mia's testimony. So
Can't
right
beat
now,
the
let me
feds.
bring on Alexis Rosenberg, trial attorney, federal litigator, and also David Ring, civil trial attorney, who has a specialization in sex crimes.
You need a psych
cases.
evaluation.
Thank you both so much for taking the time. David, I'll start with you. Mia, important witness. What are you taking away from her testimony so far today?
Well, it's early in her testimony, Jesse, but so far seems like a very, very powerful witness for the prosecution. One thing that seems noticeable by people in the courtroom is her demeanor, which is really important. Jurors watch the demeanor of witnesses, and this woman doesn't want to be there. She's very soft-spoken. She keeps her head down. And all of that leads to credibility because of the things she's going to talk about. And I think the most important one will be that she was sexually assaulted by Sean Combs.
Got a great question here for you, Alexis. All these questions are great, but I mentioned before how the judge is trying to keep everybody on schedule, right? There was one thing to say, hey, we got to get Cassandra Ventura in and out of here. She's about to give birth. And guess what? She gave birth, a week? 2 weeks after her testimony? I get it. But the question we have here from Stephen Clark is, Jesse, why is there a timeline on the trial? Seems somewhat rushed to get through to keep.
Because they got other court cases.
Shouldn't it be as long as it takes?
No.
Type of trial? That's a fair
Hell
question,
no.
Alexis. What do you think?
Well, so judges do have a right to kind of, be the monitor of their courtroom to some extent. I think what the judge is communicating here is really, we have coordination issues. We have to fly people in and out. And this happens all the time when you have
Right.
trials with witnesses.
It's not
But in
new.
this case, you have a lot of witnesses coming from other areas. So to
Y'all
ask
come on,
the
vote.
defense how long they anticipate that they are going to need for
Stop
fraud
stalling.
is totally reasonable. The judge is not
I'm talking
putting
about
a specific
the
timeline on them.
the
They seem
defense.
to be kind of, it appears to me, laying this out as possible appealable issue, but the judge is making it clear that they're not doing that.
Right.
We need this for
Stop
coordination
stalling.
purposes.
Stop
By the way,
stalling.
I'll just throw another question to you, Alexis. This is from Amanda Miles. Does the government pay for their hotel and plane flights for the people they call as witnesses?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So it is possible that they are paying for their travel expenses to get there.
By the way, just a great audience. I mean, the questions we get are phenomenal. These are questions that I think about, and then I ask again in my sidebar show.
They got a
Because I
different
think
type
people
budget. The
really
Feds
have
got a
deep
different
dive
type
into this and are asking
budget.
the right questions, including from Rita Connors. So now I go to you, David, for this question. And by the way, we did a whole sidebar on victim number 3, and apparently
Real results, zero
The
hassle.
victim three.
Beam Health's personalized GLP-1 weight loss plans
Gene.
help
who the defense has been saying Sean Combs was cheating on Cassie with. The question we have from Rita Connors is, hey, Jesse, if victim 3 refuses to testify, and yeah, we don't really know if she's going to make an appearance. There was a whole back and forth about whether or not the prosecution could get a hold of her attorney or her. Even last week, Mark Agnifilo said she's out of the case, she's not coming. Prosecution fought back on that. But anyway, hey, Jesse, if victim 3 refuses to testify, can prosecutors point to Sean's behavior in jail, the fact that he was contacting witnesses while in jail, even using other inmates to contact witnesses? David, that's interesting, right? Because I
It's
think
still
the argument
racketeering.
would be you are assuming he is the one who's responsible for victim 3 not showing up, and I don't think we can make that leap just yet without more evidence, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, look, if there is some concrete evidence that Combs was the one who somehow intimidated witness or victim 3 from appearing at the trial, that's fair game to introduce at this trial to say that's why she's not here. I don't think we have that. I haven't heard that. And so if there's not a direct link to that type of evidence, that's not an argument we're going to hear at this trial. You're just not going to hear from Gina.
So, David, listen to this. This is something that you have specialized into. As you know, Mia is testifying under a pseudonym. Alleged victim number 3 was actually going to testify using her real name. Cassie testified with her real name. We had put a poll up on Law and Crime on YouTube. Does a victim's decision to reveal their identity influence legitimacy, validity of the allegations? You ready for this? 62% say no, 37% say yes. What do you make of that?
I think in this day and age that we understand in the public that victims of sexual assault oftentimes want to remain anonymous. They don't want the whole world to know that they were a victim of assault, and the courts are really good at protecting that. This jury obviously knows the name of Mia, the pseudonym. They know her real name. They've been told her name. But I don't think that's surprising. I think we understand that these victims deserve protection from the media and the public to keep their identities private.
Because they will re-victimize
I think that's fair. And, look, I think it becomes a question of, does it affect their credibility? Does it affect why they don't want to be revealed? I mean, will the jury think for a minute, if she doesn't want to reveal her identity, is it because she's concerned about Sean Combs? Does it have to do with the substance of her testimony? Let me ask you this, Alexis. Does the judge give an instruction to the jury about that at all, about a pseudonym and what they should take away or not take away from using a pseudonym?
Yes, usually that's going to be requested, and that's going to be an instruction to the jury. I think in this instance, like David had said, since we have these allegations of rape, I don't think that the jury is going to, infer that, or it's going to affect her credibility negatively. Actually, I think it supports it based on her demeanor, that she is appearing to really be afraid and timid and nervous, and it aligns with her not wanting her real name out there. And as well, it's going to be interesting on cross, because she's coming across in this manner in front of the jury. The jury may have a tendency to want to protect her, and if the defense comes at her hard, that could potentially really backfire.
Got a question here from Soul Shadow. I'll throw it to you, David. Mia described extreme working conditions, sleep deprivation, constant surveillance. Does this forced labor allegation strengthen the prosecution's case under the RICO charge? Because this is a great question.
Yep.
There are a number of predicate crimes for RICO. Prosecution has to prove at least 2. Forced labor is one of them. As I was listening to her testimony,
20 hours, 22 hours work.
I thought this might go towards forced labor.
You
Does
ain't
it?
never lied.
Oh, absolutely, it does. I think her testimony was that she would work several days in a row, 24/7, without any sleep, and that if she tried to leave, the security guards would come after her and bring her back. And so all of this goes to this enterprise of Sean Combs, that this extreme, outrageous working conditions that absolutely you can equate to being forced labor under the RICO statutes.
Wow. If they give their name, then the public is to eat them up, right?
I think he ran this criminal enterprise, but the sex trafficking, we think he
Oh,
committed.
yeah, and especially knowing
predicate crimes
that
X,
he
Y,
has
and Z,
S8 her.
Yeah, you cut
Beat
out there,
her.
Jesse. So
Okay. Let me. Sorry about that. Let me toss back to that. So again, I'll throw this to Alexis. They can convict him of racketeering, even if the jury can, even if they don't believe sex trafficking. If they say, you know what, we're not entirely sure about the sex trafficking charge for Cassandra Ventura, they say, we still believe he's the leader of this criminal enterprise that engaged in, kidnapping, arson, forced labor, bribery, obstruction, drug trafficking. So they could, let's be clear about that, right? They can still convict him of that. The top charge, life in prison, even if they put aside all the allegations of sex trafficking, right, Alexis? I'll throw that to you.
Absolutely, Jesse. Absolutely. And I think the issue with the forced labor is very important because the defense is trying to make it out like, oh, he's guilty of domestic violence. But even if you're dating somebody and you can't force them to do labor, that doesn't fall under domestic violence.
Exactly.
That falls under something else. So we've got a lot that they're piling on here.
I've been
It's
trying to
not
tell
just
these tea-sippers.
with the alleged domestic violence, as the defense wants us to believe. The rape of Mia is very important because we can't throw that under domestic violence. That would be a separate rape charge, so they can't just hide under what they're attempting to do.
David, got a question here from Caro G. Goes back to what we were talking about before. Everyone present, including press and Diddy, knows who Mia is. What's the value to keep anonymity at this point? Am I missing something?
Well, people in the courtroom may know who she is. The jury knows who she is. The lawyers know who she is. I don't think the media in the courtroom know her name. What my understanding is, the jury was given a copy of her passport that has her photograph and her actual name on it. And so they know her identity, but that's an exhibit that's going to be, under protection and sealed. No one else knows, unless they're guessing and speculating. No one has been told her name. And so the world in general, all of us out here, we don't necessarily know who this victim is. And when she leaves the witness stand and goes back to her normal
Everybody
life,
ain't hip hop.
Most of the people out there are not going to know her true identity. And that's apparently how she wants it to be.
Alexis, I think it's been pretty clear that the prosecution has focused a lot of their time on demonstrating that Sean Combs was physically abusive. So you have multiple people testifying about this. You have the 2016 video of him appearing to beat Cassandra Ventura. You have photographs of Cassandra Ventura's injuries. So this question from C0C0NSP, why didn't they add charges for abuse in this case?
That's not federal.
It complicates it. You really want to keep it as clean. If
I
they
don't know
get
no
RICO
federal
and the
abuse.
Human trafficking, they
Okay.
don't need that. The abuse charge. Also, I think that the if we're talking about going back to the hotel situation, the statute of limitations would run on that.
Because they're state charges. That's
Right.
really state charges,
The
what we're
state.
talking about. And Alexis, the criticism that has been leveled against the federal government, for those who don't believe the evidence that's being put forward so far, is You took these allegations and you transformed them into these federal charges where there's not a statute of limitations issue, and that's what the defense would be saying. And you're saying this is sex trafficking. You're saying this is racketeering. But is it really? I mean, I was talking about this before. This is, I believe personally, I think the prosecution has been presenting quite a strong case in the last few weeks, but it's not a clean case. It's not the most easily digestible sex trafficking and racketeering cases we've seen in previous criminal cases, right? So I wonder if, those criticisms are valid, that it's an interesting way to charge him, and you don't usually see someone like him charged in this way. Doesn't mean that he wouldn't be convicted, doesn't mean that the evidence isn't there, but you understand that criticism? Am I fair to raise that, Alexis?
I mean, I've heard that criticism. I disagree. I think when you are trafficking humans for labor or sex across state lines, we've got federal trafficking. So that we've got that down. But the question is why they do the RICO. And I'm hearing the same thing. I think that this is very agreeable to a RICO charge. I mean, there is an allegation that there's this enterprise and there were these criminal acts that were done. So I think to do it as a RICO, I think why it's taking the public back is it is an unusual charge. And I think we got to go back to why RICO was created. It was really to get the mob. It was a norm, to get the mob bosses. And I think that may be what is confusing the public as to not just charging them with the simpler charges.
I got a question here from Shop Girl. I'll throw it to you, David. In federal cases such as this one, does Diddy still have access to his money and estate?
Oh, no, he doesn't. I mean, he does to pay his lawyers and things like that, but look, all of that was frozen by the federal government when they arrested him and charged him with these crimes. So he does not have unfettered access to his estate, to his assets, to all of those
What
things.
is the poll looking like?
Those are things that in a RICO charge have been, really locked down and prevented from gaining full access to all those things.
Diddy don't have access to that money.
David, this is from Cheryl Willis. Are all his employees at all his businesses about to lose their jobs? What will happen to the contracts the artists have with Bad Boy?
Oh boy, I'll tell you, the fallout will be tremendous. Let's assume that he gets convicted of any of these crimes. The fallout is massive, and look at how many people will be affected by it. And sure, I mean, I don't know, does his businesses survive after this type of trial and these allegations? I'd be surprised if they do. Maybe they're transformed into a different name and someone else is running them, or they're sold off. But no, I think there will be massive fallout in all of his.
Nope, they better start looking for a replacement.
Got a question.
Do you have an EBT card? We have some news for you. This special spending card.
Do you think with the fingerprints missing, Diddy's team might try to tamper with the evidence or influence the judges? I believe this is in relation to what happened yesterday with Kid Cudi, right? Remember Kid Cudi had testified last week about his home being broken into, about his car being set on fire. There was a back and forth yesterday that turned into quite a show outside the presence of the jury, where the defense objected to the line of questioning from the prosecution about missing fingerprint cards because they were concerned the jury would take away from that Diddy or his team were responsible for missing fingerprint cards. The judge even was kind of ticked off the questioning from the prosecution, told the jury to disregard all of the commentary about that, all of the testimony regarding fingerprint cards. But again,
129 people have voted. Come on, y'all. It's 400 and some people in here. Let's vote.
Is this a situation
have they
where we
proved
might again
RICO, racketeering?
Jumping too far to make an assumption?
Well, I'm going to hope not. But I mean, there has been some concern that he may get to, a juror. There's been concern about him tampering with witnesses. But I'm going to hope that he's not doing that. And I'm going to hope that
he don't know
that
how
does
to
not happen.
He don't know how to do right.
Under the circumstances of what people have testified to, it is a concern.
By the way, so we're waiting for court to start up again, and one of the things I love about the lunchtime show here is we will report to you in real time what is happening in the courtroom, the testimony, and we will break it down for you in real time from a legal point of view about what's actually happening, what this means. So as soon as that starts up, we'll let you know. We're still taking your questions up on YouTube. Keep them coming through. We got a question from Miss Max. I'll throw this to you, David. Christian Combs has been named in connection with assaulting someone on a yacht, on a yacht outing with Diddy. Will he be called to the stand? So just to provide a little context, yes, he has been sued outside of the criminal context. He has been sued for allegedly assaulting a steward on this yacht. We've actually reported on this here on Long Crime and Sidebar. But do you think he's going to be called to the stand either by the prosecution or the defense?
Well, I don't think he's going to be called by the prosecution. I just don't think they need to get into that particular allegation. And it is that is part of a civil case. It's not part of this criminal case. Does the defense call him some sort of character witness or something like that? Remains to be seen. But I don't think those allegations necessarily fit into this case for either side at this point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is an interesting question. I'll throw this to you, Alexis. This is from Legs7K. Hello to Jesse and studio guests. When the incident happened of Sean Combs turning up to the hotel with Nash, Cassie, Mia, didn't he knock on the door with a gun present? Now, I don't remember exactly, Alexis. You might remember this. But, you know, Capricorn Clark, who had testified earlier in the week, she had testified, right, that when she was allegedly kidnapped by Combs, he had a gun present. I don't remember specifically. You might remember this, but your thoughts on this. I'll try to take a quicker look as well.
I don't remember specifically, but he may have, because it seems like he was always in possession or carrying some sort of weapon or had somebody with him that was carrying a weapon. But I don't specifically remember that testimony.
Look, and that's important for a number of reasons. So if you're trying to transform the narrative that he is a mob boss who used threats and violence and threats of violence, that's important for the pattern of illegal racketeering activity. But also, anytime you're talking about this with respect to Cassie Ventura, force, fraud, coercion to induce her to engage in sex trafficking and commercial sex acts, and being in an environment of violence and threats and guns, that is something the prosecution is going to argue, that she had no choice because of this, because she was in fear for her life. So the more we hear, that's really important. Okay, we have a super chat question. Thank you so much from Nestdog. Thank you, Nestdog. I'll throw this to you, David. Does the system have safeguards against jurors going rogue? I keep hearing that it only takes one juror.
It only takes one juror to have a hung jury. You know, obviously in a criminal case, it's got to be a unanimous verdict, right? It's not like a civil case where it can be 9-3 or 8-4 sometimes. It's got to be unanimous. And so, hey, there are rogue jurors out there. There are jurers who get on big cases and they have a hidden agenda, and their agenda might be because they really like the defendant and they're not going to convict him under any situation at all. And it's very hard to weed those jurors out. But that's why they have these juror questionnaires during jury selection. And that's why they have a very vigorous jury selection so that the lawyers can weed out certain jurors like that may have a hidden agenda. But hey, it has happened in other big trials. Who knows if it happens here?
Goes to another question that we got.
Then it'll be.
I'll throw this to both of you.
Try it
I'll start with
again.
you, Alexis. This is a question from T. What's the likelihood of Diddy beating the case? And again, if you got one juror, a hung jury, right? You know, one juror, is that a win for Diddy or not? But I mean, what's the likelihood of Diddy getting a hung jury, or maybe better for him, obviously, an acquittal on these charges?
Well, I mean, if I knew that, I'd be betting on the odds in Vegas right now. But that being said, I mean, I think it was Suge Knight said he's very lucky. He's a very lucky guy. And
Hi,
then
Carolyn.
also
Hey.
said in an interview that if he does get convicted,
How you
that
doing?
there's a high probability that Trump might pardon him.
I
Yep.
don't think that's going to happen. I don't think
That's
gonna
what they
happen.
thinking.
I don't think that's going to happen, David. I think what came out of this trial, whether he's convicted or not, is it dirties up a lot. It's going to be hard to justify a pardon. I don't want to get political on this, but I do have to say, David, look, my perspective, I think transportation to engage in prostitution, so literally transporting alleged victims and sex workers for purposes or the intent of sex work, I think they're going to have an easy time proving that. I mean, Cassie has been taken to different locations where she allegedly engaged in sex work with sex workers, and I believe she testified there was at least one who was used in multiple places. I think that might be an easier charge. At the beginning of the case, I wasn't sure about racketeering or sex trafficking, but the more I hear from these assistants and possibly bodyguards about what this organization was like, what this, these job duties were like, and whether it's cleaning up hotel rooms or setting up the freak-offs or the violence or what
Come on,
happened
yes,
with allegedly
400
Kid
people
Cudi,
in here.
the more they're building the narrative of a
168
criminal
votes.
organization,
Hit the
and
like
more they're
button.
building the narrative that he
The likes are nowhere
committed
near
the
where they
predicate
need to
crimes
be.
here of sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, bribery, obstruction. I see them building the racketeering case. And with sex trafficking, at least with respect to Cassie Ventura, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the 2016 incident, right, of him purportedly beating her in that hotel room, wearing a towel, she claims right after a freak off. I think that is an easily digestible way to get sex trafficking. I think the idea also of him sitting, the allegation that him sitting next to her on a plane, showing her tapes of freak offs, allegedly threatening to release them, they land, he asks for a freak off, he gets a freak off. You have the elements of travel, coercion, commercial sex. Those are two areas where I think it would be easier for the jury to convict him of sex trafficking. That's my take. But do you think he's going to beat the case, David?
I'm in your camp, Jesse. I'll be, I was very skeptical of some of these charges at the outset of this case, and I followed it very closely, and the prosecution has won me over at this point. I mean, they have proven these charges, and let's face it.
He was a hard one to move.
Boy, is there anyone on that jury that likes Sean Combs at this point in time? I mean, he comes across as an absolutely despicable person. I mean, the things that we have heard about him in the last few weeks, there's no way anyone on his jury looks at him the way they did on day one. And that's going to hurt him, and it's going to make it way easier for this jury to convict him on all these charges. There's absolutely... There's nothing there that this jury, I think, that they're going to sit there and want to fight for Sean Combs at the end of this trial. At least not at this point.
Got an update from court. The prosecutor says, we have subpoenaed from Verizon phone records Ms. Garagos, this is Tenny Garagos referring to Sean Combs' defense counsel. Ms. Garagos has agreed that if Your Honor finds them admissible, you can give them to us and we to them. Garagos responds, that's fine. The judge says, let's get Mia back. So we're going to see the continuation of her testimony. We'll break it down in real time. Okay, here we go. Question from KC. I go to you, Alexis. Is it true jurors make a decision of guilt or not guilty within the first couple of days of trial?
No.
Well, I mean, jurors are human. So, I mean, appearances, what they're seeing. But they could have an initial opinion, and then it can be shifted as testimony comes out. I mean, they are supposed to keep an open mind, and they're supposed to listen to the testimony.
They have no way of knowing who else is coming.
Like David said,
6 to 8
he's
weeks.
coming across with all this testimony as a pure monster, in my opinion. So I don't know if the defense is going to get and be able to shift what they already have in their mind.
That raises a bigger question here, David, right? I've talked day in and day out about the law. About
If that's the case, then that means it's
fixed.
fixed.
The jury's going to come back and say, wow, what did we just hear over the past 8 weeks? We really do not like this guy. We want to convict him of something. Let me be clear. They shouldn't do that, okay? I don't care what the defendant is. I don't care who the defendant is. You should not, as a juror who has a very important responsibility, make a decision based on emotion. You base it on the facts, you base it on the law, the jury instructions, the arguments. You don't do it based on, we think he's a bad guy, he must have committed some crime. No, did the prosecution prove this case, these charges beyond a reasonable doubt? But they're humans, David. What do you think?
Well, look, that's why closing arguments are going to be vitally important in this case. And going back to the other question, yeah, sure, there's jurors who make up their mind before the trial is actually over. But I'll tell you this, I've had a lot of trials. I've talked to a lot of jurors after the trials. The vast majority of jurors, truly, they follow the judge's instruction and they go into deliberations with a fairly open mind. And they listen to the other jurors, and oftentimes they go in with one position in their head and they're swayed to change their mind because of jury deliberations, and they take it very seriously. So I think, I give the jury the benefit of the doubt in this case that they're all taking this incredibly seriously. They're all going to deliberate in good faith. But closing arguments will be crucial because, the prosecution is going to probably say just that. Hey, you can't convict him just because you don't like him. Here's the elements of these crimes. And the prosecution, we've fulfilled all these elements. That's why you convict him.
Got another.
After my car wreck, there was a lot I didn't know.
I do know. We can help you understand all of your legal rights so that you don't get...
Alexis, can the judge give instructions to the jury stating he will not allow a hung jury?
No.
No, the judge cannot do that. If the judge can send the jury back to continue to deliberate, but he cannot instruct the jury that he won't allow a hung jury.
Oh, Debbie, I don't know nothing about what
right, basically,
what happened to Fantasia.
Continue deliberating. I encourage you, go back, try to deliberate. Sometimes it comes back with a guilty verdict. Sometimes it comes back with an acquittal. Sometimes they come back, we're still undecided. Okay, update from court. All rise. Prosecutor Smizer is asking Mia, again, alleged victim number 4. Mia, you were speaking about violence between Mr. Combs and...
I haven't heard anything out of Fantasia's mouth.
Yes,
It may be some rumors, but I haven't heard Fantasia say anything.
I was sleeping in my bedroom, and I was woken up. That travel component is really important, David, right?
Yeah, it goes right to the heart of the sex trafficking, the transportation for prostitution. Every time you hear travel, they're not just putting that in there, just to put it in there. It's important to these particular elements of these crimes that there's transportation that leads to some sort of criminal act.
Got a question from Ashley Glass. If Diddy gets acquitted for this, can the government retry? Nope. If he's acquitted, that's the end of the case. That's the end of those charges. All right. We have a poll. Do you think victim 3's refusal to testify could negatively impact the state's case, Alexis? 61% say no, 38% say yes. Your reaction, Alexis, to that?
I don't think it will. I mean, we don't know exactly what they're going to testify to, so it may be that the victim had this wonderful testimony that would have been great for the prosecution. But without knowing the specifics of that testimony, the mere fact of them not testifying, no, I don't believe it will be an issue.
Got a continuation of what's happening in court. So Mia has testified, again, regarding this Turks and Caicos trip to Parrot Cay, which she said, I was sleeping in my bedroom. I was woken up. Cass ran in saying, you've got to help me. He's going to kill me. Prosecutor asks, what did you do? We started pushing furniture in front of the door to try to block it. Puff was banging and screaming. I had a porch that went out to the beach. We ran. Now, David, again, the defense would be saying you have described, prosecutors, a lot of violent episodes, a lot of domestic violence, a toxic relationship, arguably state crimes. How is this racketeering? How is this sex trafficking? What would your answer be?
Well, look, you got to look at the totality of this evidence, the totality of the circumstances for this entire case. And I truly think what's going to happen is
that's one person starting a narrative.
Is that, Mia, we know she's sexually assaulted by Diddy. And so, again, these violent acts are super important because it allows him to control these victims.
See, that's why I don't like control narratives, where people try to create something and throw something out there to start a ripple effect. That's why I said I ain't never heard her say anything. I haven't heard anything, but I just checked, and there's only one person within the last day put that out there. Other than that, ain't nothing out there like that. So that means to me that if it starts, unless I hear it come out her mouth, it's a lie. And somebody done made that up to start a trickle effect. That's control narratives. I cannot stand that. And
it goes right to the heart of these charges, that these threats, this violence, all leads to sex trafficking, to trafficking and prostitution. It's this criminal enterprise, and that's what it comes down to.
Yep. I got another great question. This is from Jesper Sparrow. I'm going to throw this to you, Alexis. Did Cassie get immunity for her testimony? And if so, why wasn't it used for impeachment purposes?
Impeachment?
I don't believe that she did. They could have offered her that potentially, because I think that would have come out. There would have been some questioning of her about whether she received immunity.
And what would she get immunity for exactly?
Because she was a part of it. I definitely think she got immunity. I ain't gonna lie now.
Hiring sex workers for prostitution, I
Yep.
guess. I mean,
Yep. Right there.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, one of the questions that I've seen come across is why aren't there other people that have been named as defendants in this racketeering case along with Diddy? So, I mean, there probably are, which they don't have to do, by the way. You don't have to name everybody as part of the enterprise. But there may have been people that have given testimony or information to the government that they did receive immunity, that they're going to put on the stand, they're not planning on putting on the stand, but they just got information from them, because that is not uncommon. So that may have happened, but I don't think she was given immunity because it would have come out as part of the testimony.
yeah, I mean, there was other conversations about immunity.
Yeah, I think she did.
Proffer
But that's just my opinion.
Assistance.
Well, proper is still immunity
If bodyguards testify, I would
to
imagine
tell
the same
to
thing.
tell
I would be
the
surprised
truth.
by that because,
And
again,
if she lie,
he's charged
her
with
ass will be
racketeering
charged.
Conspiracy. He can't do it himself. He couldn't have committed these crimes and covered them up all by himself. So you'd have to imagine that the people he did it with or allegedly did it with would have taken some sort of deal or have some sort of protection to testify against him. Okay, going back to court, prosecutor asks Mia, what do you remember about running? Mia responds, I remember being amazed that even while running fast, we could be attacked by bugs. Did you run another time? I have another visual of where we were hiding, of trying to escape like 2 separate times.
Oh, trying to escape.
Okay.
That's gonna get him
listen
too.
to this one. This is for you. Well, actually, it's not a necessarily question. It's a poll, but I think it's a really interesting poll, David. If convicted, do you think Diddy will regret not taking his original
Absolutely.
plea deal? 76%
Who wouldn't?
say yes,
Yeah.
23% say no. Now, to be clear, we don't know what that deal consisted of. If you ask me, it had to be double digits. I don't think that they were going to have.
I think they said 15 years.
When they're basically describing him being a criminal leader, a mafia boss almost, and what he's accused of doing, sex trafficking, committing all these crimes, where he faces charges that could send him to life in prison. I don't think they would have offered him 5 years. But what do you think? You think he'll regret it if he's convicted?
Well, no, I agree. I think if there was a plea deal, it was significant, and yeah, I mean, look, he's facing life in prison if convicted of some of these charges, and some of the other ones carry 15, 20 years
Right.
Minimum. And so if he's convicted, he's looking at minimum of 15 years, possibly life. And so if he looks back on it and says, you know what, I could have taken a plea deal. I maybe could have saved all of this information and horrible evidence from coming out. Could have served, 7, 8, 9 years and getting out for good behavior. Yeah, he's probably going to regret it.
Yeah.
Well, David,
I know
we got
I
a
would.
question from Leslie. Will we ever hear what Diddy's plea deal was?
Maybe.
Probably not. I mean, maybe it comes out after this trial that someone says, here's what he was offered, but are we going to be able to really rely upon that information unless it comes from the government itself? So we may not know what deal he was offered. We may never know that. But we might. Maybe they come out and do say, hey, we offered the guy 10 years. But again, most of the time you don't hear that.
Okay, so I have good news. Not only do I have Alexis and David, but now we also have Nima Rahmani, former federal prosecutor. Look at that. Look at the boxes just like this. It's like the Brady Bunch over here. Nima, good to have you. Welcome to the conversation. Okay, lot to talk about. So first of all, more updates from court about Mia's testimony. We got onto the paddle boards, went out to the water. Puff was on the beach screaming at us. It was flat. We went out far. Puff got smaller and smaller on the beach. The sky got dark, and then all of a sudden, Sean Combs' counsel, Brian Steele, says objection, overruled. We went back. Did you ever call the police? No. Why not? I believe Puff's authority was above the police. This was before social media and MeToo. There were no examples of people standing up. I thought it was under the confidentiality deal with Puff's business. So Nima, that's a big point, right? I've said it before. I'll say it again. A big theme I think the jury's going to have to wrestle with is why didn't Cassie leave? Why didn't Cassie step forward? Why did nobody else report what Combs was doing? How is it possible?
Why did Mia and
according to Dawn Richard, Cassie was beating up
Deonte,
in front of
they
high-profile
had
celebrities.
to jump
Nobody
on his
stepped
back?
in.
Why they didn't leave?
That power dynamic, who he is important in this case, right?
Jesse, you're absolutely right. It's extremely important. And look, abusers often have power over their victims, but here the power disparity is something else. And there's this other underlying theme that we're getting out, and it really was the basis for the mistrial motion yesterday, that Combs was above the law, right? He was doing all this, and he could pay his way or use his power and influence not to be prosecuted by law enforcement. So obviously what the defense wants to do is say, no, there's not this disparity in power. What they're trying to do is actually build up the victims, right? This is a theme in their opening statement, that these are strong, independent women who are making their own decision. The prosecution saying, no. Here's someone who controlled every aspect of their life. And the reason the victims didn't leave, like you asked, Jesse, is because they didn't think they could, because of all the control and influence that Combs had.
Nima, I'm going to throw this to you. This is from PMA 1982. In your opinion, how many parts of RICO have already been proven?
I think we've satisfied RICO. You have the criminal enterprise, right? Bad boy records. And we know it doesn't have to be the mob or the cartel. It can be a much looser association. Then you have the conspiracy, right? The agreement to do something unlawful. I think that's satisfied. Obviously, the most important thing everyone is talking about is those pattern of racketeering acts. I think, look, even if you don't believe sex trafficking, even if you think this was all consensual, I think you got arson. I think you got kidnapping. I think you got intimidation. You got obstruction. You got prostitution. You got plenty of predicate acts here.
Absolutely.
Jesse. So I think RICO has been established. And frankly, I think the RICO charge is easier to prove for the government than the sex trafficking.
Got a super chat question. I'll throw it to you, Nima. This is from Donneezy TV. Thank you so much for your super chat question. Are there any state charges
He out of here.
you face?
Yep.
It's tough. You know, I'm here in Los Angeles where the 2016 hotel assault happened, and statute is run on that, unfortunately. It's hard. Some of this is dated. You know, even Cassie's allegation regarding her rape, that's probably the most likely to be charged stateside. But I think if Combs is convicted, it's going to be a moot point. He's going to do double-digit years in federal prison. If he's acquitted, I can't see the DA here, Nathan Hochman, filing additional charges after what would be a very high-profile acquittal.
Okay, so we got an update from court. Again, the continued testimony of Mia, alleged victim number 4. Prosecutor asks, "What's this?" Mia responds, "A photo of Cass eating a hot dog at the premiere of her movie, The Perfect Match. She is bruising under her makeup. I took this photo. Any other injuries covered up on a red carpet? Yes, at the Cannes Film Festival. What injuries did you see? A busted lip. She was injured. Where were you? In her hotel room with Larry Sims, her hairstylist. Did you learn how she got the injuries? Cass had an audio recording of Puff attacking her."
Audio
David,
recording.
This is a question from Christine Dobson. Might have been
Audio
posted before, but I missed it.
recording.
Is the jury sequestered? No, they're not sequestered, but I'll throw this to you, Dave. Do you think they should have been?
No. Look, nowadays, very, very few juries are ever sequestered. It turns into an absolute nightmare. Jurors do not want to be locked up in a hotel room for 2 months and not seeing anyone.
I think they
With
should have,
social
though.
media and the phones and this and that, it doesn't do any good anyways. I mean, it might have worked back in the day when truly they would have no TV in the hotel room and would have no information about the case. But even if you did lock them away, they'd have plenty of information if they wanted to look at it. So there's just no reason to do that. The judge always says, do not read the media, do not read accounts of the case, do not talk to anyone about the case. You know, every day they get that instruction and hopefully they follow it.
2 votes.
Alexis,
Come on, it's still time.
Interesting poll. Do you think Diddy's defense genuinely believes they can win this for their client? 58% say no, 41% say yes.
They know they
Your
can't.
reaction to that, Alexis?
I don't think that they think they can win this.
No.
I think it's clear that we've got a lot
I be trying to tell them, T-Sippers.
evidence.
I be trying to tell them.
They've got to do some fancy dancing to convince the jury that not to convict him.
They already know.
From court.
Hell, he the ninth chair.
How did Cassie sound on the audio recording? There's an objection from defense counsel. It was overruled. Mia said, panicked. I heard the sound of someone getting hit. Did you go to events?
Oh, wow.
The premiere of Brad Pitt's movie, Killing Them Softly. What happened at the premiere? Puff was digging his nails into her arm and talking low. What did Mr. Combs ask you to do? Take care of her. I bring her arnica gel. For what? Bruises. Talk to us about why that's important for sex trafficking and why that's important for racketeering.
Because he was a pimp.
So sex trafficking, you need that force, fraud, or coercion, right? And we've spent a lot of time in this case talking about force and coercion. Coercion being the drugs, holding the sex tapes over her, that extortion, right? She was concerned that if she left or if she said no, the sex tapes would be put on the internet or sent to her parents' place of work. And then, of course, for the racketeering, obviously, you know, to the extent that there's violence. Now, obviously, domestic violence, assault, they're not racketeering elements, but if there is violence in connection with kidnapping, for instance, right? Kidnapping someone like Capricorn Clark or someone like Cassie Ventura, that violence, that can all come into evidence to the extent that we're dealing with racketeering predicates.
And if this is true, that he's digging his nails into her arm, talking low, that level of control and having
That sound like a pimp. That sound like a pimp.
Again, goes to this
That sound like a pimp, y'all. Come on. That sound like Leroy. If you don't get your, you know what I'm saying? If you don't get your, like I told you, I'm gonna beat you. That's what he sound like. He, you know, he like changing his name. Hell, he Diddy, P Diddy, Diddler, the pimp. He all of that. Dubai. Sick, shoot, he Diddy, he Donald, Diddy Donald, you know, all of that. He all of the above. So that's what that sound like to me, which is coercion, which is force. Yeah, intimidation. Yeah, she was forced into that. And again, she still don't, she do now. But it took her a long time to realize that he was, baby, when you messed up on MTV, that was it for music for you. At that time, you became his own porn star, period. You was not his girl. He called you his home girl, my homie, lover, friend. Where your ring? You don't have one? Never will get one. Right. It took a long time to realize that he's your pimp. He your pimp, baby. He your pimp. I'm sorry. Somebody should have told you a long time ago. I'm sorry.
A criminal pattern that he's using his resources and his business and his employees to further this criminal activity. We have a
he said pimping ain't easy, but Diddy got to do it.
Alleged victim number 4. Prosecutor asks, "What's this?" Mia responds, "A photo of Cass eating a hot dog at the premiere of her movie, The Perfect Match. She is bruising under her makeup. I took this photo. Any other injuries covered up on a red carpet? Yes, at the Cannes Film Festival. What injuries did you see? A busted lip. She was injured. Where were you? In her hotel room with Larry Sims, her hairstylist. Did you learn how she got the injuries? Cass had an audio recording of Puff attacking her."
It's a dirty dog shame.
David, on this. This is a question from Christine Dobson. Might have been posted before, but I missed it. Is the jury sequestered? No, they're not sequestered, but I'll throw this to you, Dave. Do you think they should have been?
No. Look, nowadays, very, very few juries are ever sequestered. It turns into an absolute nightmare. Jurors do not want to be locked up in a hotel room for 2 months and not seeing anyone. And with social media and the phones and this and that, it doesn't do any good anyways. I mean, it might have worked back in the day when truly they would have no TV in the hotel room and would have no information about the case. But even if you did lock them away, they'd have plenty of information if they wanted to look at it. So there's just no reason to do that. The judge always says, do not read the media, do not read accounts of the case, do not talk to anyone about the case. You know, every day they get that instruction and hopefully they follow it.
Alexis, interesting question, interesting poll. Do you think Diddy's defense genuinely believes they can win this for their client? 58% say no, 41% say yes. Your reaction to that, Alexis?
I don't think that they think they can win this. No, I think it's clear that we've got a lot of damaging testimony and evidence, and I think they have some concerns. They've got to do some fancy dancing to convince the jury that not to convict him.
Got an update from court. Prosecutor asking Mia, how did Cassie sound on the audio recording? There's an objection from defense counsel. It was overruled. Mia said, panicked. I heard the sound of someone getting hit. Did you go to events? The premiere of Brad Pitt's movie, Killing Them Softly. What happened at the premiere? Puff was digging his nails into her arm and talking low. What would Mr. Combs ask you to do? Take care of her. I'd bring her arnica gel. For what? Bruises. Talk to us about why that's important for sex trafficking and why that's important for racketeering, Nima.
So sex trafficking, you need that force, fraud, or coercion, right? And we've spent a lot of time in this case talking about force and coercion. Coercion being the drugs, holding the sex tapes over her, that extortion, right? She was concerned that if she left or if she said no, the sex tapes would be put on the internet or sent to her parents' place of work. And then, of course, for the racketeering, obviously, you know, to the extent that there's violence. Now, obviously, domestic violence, assault, they're not racketeering elements. But if there is violence in connection with kidnapping, for instance, right? Kidnapping someone like Capricorn Clark or someone like Cassie Ventura, that violence, that can all come into evidence to the extent that we're dealing with racketeering predicates.
And if this is true, that he's digging his nails into her arm, talking low, that level of control, and having his assistant cover it up, again, goes to this idea of a criminal pattern that he's using his resources and his business and his employees to further this criminal activity. We have a super chat question from Ever Rios. Thank you so much. Is there no recording at all? Not even the courtroom cam? There is no recording. We do get the transcripts. What we try to do on Law and Crime, we've been experimenting with a little bit, is we put it into this AI program. So we're creating AI recreations. We did it of the opening statements. We did it of Cassie's testimony. Federal courts, unfortunately, they haven't gotten up to the times, and I think that this is a big problem in terms of transparency, particularly in an important case like this, a case of public interest like this. But we're trying to do the best we can of, you know, putting you in that courtroom as to what's happening with this testimony. Okay. Alexis, question from Merlene Spies. Can witness 3 not get arrested for not coming to court?
So they can subpoena her, and yes, she can be held in contempt. I think that the issue that prosecutors have with anytime you want to put a witness that doesn't want to be there on the stand, the testimony can be damaging to the prosecution. So prosecutors are very hesitant to do that, to force a witness that's supposed to be testifying on their behalf to come testify. So you got to balance. You have to balance that. Also, do you want to put someone in jail for not testifying when they've already been victimized?
All right, before we wrap things up, I got one last question for all 3 of you. I'm going to take it one by one. This is from Leg 7K. Quick question coming at the end of week 3, going into week 4. Who does the panel think has the advantage so far? Thank you. I'll start with you, Nima.
My estimation, this is the former federal prosecutor to me, prosecution has a clear edge right now. I mean, between the video evidence and victim after victim that's telling the same story. The jurors might disbelieve one of them, but there's no way they're going to disbelieve everyone. I think we're marching towards a conviction here, Jesse.
David.
At Domino's, now you can carry out a one-topping pizza with any of our 5 crust types, and you can order any way you want.
Put on the prosecution, and it doesn't look like it's getting any weaker. Each witness that they put forward each new day seems to have something new and compelling to say. So it's not looking good for the defense.
And Alexis, before I throw to you, just an interesting poll result. Do you think Diddy should face any state charges for these alleged crimes? 85% say yes, 15% say no. So even, I guess, putting aside the statute of limitations issues that might arise. So, Alexis, I'll throw back the question from Leg 7K. As we close out this week, who do you think has the advantage so far?
The prosecution, but remember, this is their case in chief right now. So if they didn't have the advantage right now, then they would be in some real trouble.
That's a good point. Alexis Rosenberg, David Ring, Nima Rahmani, thank you all for taking the time. Really, really appreciate it. All-star panel. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Jesse.
All right.
Now,
before we wrap things up, again, we're planning to do these lunchtime shows, take your questions every day of this trial. Again, we want to kind of put you in the courtroom as much as we possibly can. That's why it's great to have Elizabeth Milner on, who's been in that courtroom and giving us kind of a bird's eye view about what's happening. But one of the other reasons that we can do this is because we get incredible support from our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. This is America's largest injury law firm. And I'll give you an idea here. This is a firm, okay, incredible track record. So they secured a $6 million verdict for a car crash victim in Florida, $13 million for a wrongful auto death in Georgia, and another $6 million for a trucking accident in New York. And mind you, this was all after insurance offered their clients significantly less in each of these cases. And even if you think your case isn't worth millions of dollars, why not just start a claim and see what you can get? Fight for what you deserve, because Morgan & Morgan, they make the process so simple. It can all be done right from your phone. In fact, you can do it from your phone in just 8 clicks. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC Live by clicking the link below or scanning the QR code.
My bad, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, everybody, for your questions. Thank you so much for your support. Jesse,
okay, hold on.
Catch you next time.
Hold on, let's get to the next one.
Bring in our friend here on Live Now from Fox, Ben Taylor, legal analyst, attorney. Thanks so much for joining us, Ben. So, this is another key witness that is on the stand for the prosecution, and we're just really detailing a timeline of her employment with Sean Combs. And it seems like right off the bat, it's not your normal when he smashed her. What happened then?
They might, but I think we have since heard from people who did, Mike, and I think maybe next, 2 weeks ago, you'd have a jury who would say, I don't think they've proven their case so far. I'm not so sure right now as we sit here that would still be their answer.
Yeah, that's really good intel, especially since, like you said there, some of this testimony is like ripped off like a Goodfellas or Sopranos. Yeah. I mean, it's just talking about the mob
much
style.
On the nose, Mike. Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Totally. Okay, lastly,
333
really quick,
votes.
What do we know about Mia, who is expected to take the stand maybe tomorrow into
so
Friday?
Far.
What can we expect there from the prosecution and Mia?
Yeah, I think the reality is here, right?
Nobody has helped me reach my goal.
To make a strong argument
Come
have
on,
been
y'all.
most effective. When it comes to their testimony, Mike, is people who knew Diddy and who worked for him for for an extended period of time. Again, we're not talking about a singular incident here. We're talking about alleged behavior over a period that encompasses more than a decade. And if you look to Capricorn's testimony yesterday, and I think you're going to continue to hear from people who have worked for Diddy and who allegedly saw illegal activity. And I think that those people really have a story to tell, and potentially that's what ultimately makes the case here. So I would look for, much like we heard with Capricorn. I think you hear some things along those same lines, and be very interesting to hear, what she says and what impact do we think that ultimately has on the jury here.
Yeah, so true. So
63% says yes, they have. 37% says
live now from Fox. So the former assistant to Sean
no.
Combs
So far,
out in New York City, and on the stand right now is a girl named Mia, who was a former assistant to Sean Combs, and detailing some of the alleged abuse, but also some of really the alleged mental abuse as well at the hands of Sean Combs and other assistants here. So to help break down some of the testimony that we are seeing so far from the prosecution, let's bring in our friend here on Live Now from Fox, Ben Taylor, legal analyst, attorney. Thanks so much for joining us, Ben. So this is another key witness that is on the stand for the prosecution, and we were just really detailing a timeline of her employment with Sean Combs, and it seems like right off the bat, it's not your normal work environment at all.
Yes, a lot of times in the music industry, it's not your normal work employment environment like a person who works 8 to 5 goes every day. A lot of people in the music industry are working late at night. They're doing random odd things, even going to, get a pizza for your boss and bringing it back. Entertaining people, having parties. I mean, this is a totally different lifestyle that most people don't experience every day who are working their normal 8 to 5 jobs. So, this is a very interesting testimony that's going on right now.
And, a lot of people would say, I know you're working for a celebrity, so it's going to be maybe a little bit different, strenuous at times, just given the different hours. But given the fact that, some of the things that this Mia says that she witnessed right off the bat, I'm talking abuse, and really she's detailing moments where she wasn't able to sleep for days on end because Diddy and his team would be always wanting to know where she's at. And it seems to me that the defense is going to have a wide open question saying, why didn't you just leave?
Yes, that's the thing about cross-examination. Right now, the prosecutor is getting their chance to put on their witness and have the witness testify to how horrible an experience it was working for Sean Combs as his assistant. But the defense attorney is going to be able to stand up and cross-examine and be able to say, if it's so bad, why did you stay? There's other jobs you could have applied for. Why are you there? And they're going to try to make her seem like she wanted to be around the money and the fame, and she was willing to do whatever it takes. So even though Sean Combs might have asked her to do some wild things, they're going to show her, but you volunteered to do that. Nobody forced you to do that. You could quit and go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's so true, and it seems like that.
Please hit the like button or double tap your screen on your phone.
It seems like for most of the day, the prosecution is going to have their really hand at Mia right now, and I think a lot of people are wondering too. We're detailing what she saw and some of the abuse maybe to Cassie as well, but is the jury wondering, okay, if you saw this stuff, why did not anyone in this whole operation say anything, say to law enforcement? They could have just said, hey, there's some really bad stuff going on here.
Yes, Mike, that's like the $1 million question here. Mm-hmm. All these witnesses that the prosecution is bringing are pretty much trying to say that Diddy is a terrible person. And it shows that, these are some horrible acts that are happening here. But
very horrible.
These are acts that happened years ago. So why didn't people go to law enforcement? Why didn't people, like you said, quit their jobs or walk a different direction? So the defense's whole argument is going to be, everybody volunteered to be there. People actually maybe enjoyed it at the time. And now that they're fired or now that they're removed from it, now they're trying to get back and maybe get a civil lawsuit or get some sort of money out of this. So that's where the defense is going to go at, to show that these people have motive to maybe lie or exaggerate because they want money.
And right now, prosecution really trying to showcase the control that Sean Combs seemed to love and really be empowered by to show really his, not only his power, but his influence and money as well. But how will the defense try to really chip away at that and then also kind of showcase, okay, maybe it's not about power, but maybe these people wanted to just be around a celebrity?
Yes, you have to embrace the fact that some of these things that Sean Combs is doing are just jerk moves. I mean, they're horrible events. Having Cassie in the middle of a hotel room and the assault on her. But as a defense attorney, you have to almost embrace that and say, hey, yes, what Sean Combs did was terrible, but he's not being charged for domestic violence. He's up here for racketeering. He's up here for extortion. So do you see any money being exchanged? Do you see any racketeering evidence here? Yes, the prosecution has embraced my client to be a horrible person, which I would say, I agree. He's done some horrible things, but he didn't do racketeering. He didn't do extortion. He didn't do any of the things that he's being charged with today. And that's what the defense attorney is going to have to bring out to the jury.
Yeah, that's so true. And we continue to wait for more updates about Mia here on the stand. And talk a little bit about, she is using just, that is not her real name. And she's using this as a cover. The jury knows her name, but that's not going to be disclosed publicly. How often is this used in court?
It's very rare because courtrooms are public knowledge and anybody can show up, from the street and show up and sit down and watch a trial. So for a judge to seal her name from being disclosed to the public, they would have to have filed some sort of motion prior to this trial before she testified to say, this is the reason why we don't want her name out there. Maybe fear of harassment, fear of revenge from other people out there knowing her real name when she testifies. And we have to remember, in federal court, there's no cameras in the courtroom. In state court, you can have cameras all day. We can actually watch it. So that's why the viewers are not able to see actual pictures and testimony of Sean Combs or the witnesses, because in federal court, federal judges don't allow that. So this is another way of maybe being able to show people's identity, not show their identity, and be able to keep them silent. That way, confidentiality, so that way there's no revenge against them in the future for testifying.
And Ben, as a defense attorney, is there worry that when the prosecution is really, going after the defendant in a way of just trying to slam the character of that person, is there worry ever that no matter what the facts, the evidence is that are displayed in court, that if you knock the person down so much and really paint him as an animal, as just a crazy person, is there worry that at the end of the day, maybe weeks later into this case, that the jury is going to be like, look, I don't know what really happened there, but he is a horrible person and I'm going to convict him. I know that's not the way that it's supposed to go, but I'm just talking about mentally how the jury is perceived.
Yeah, juries have two thoughts. Some of the jurors are going to think, yes, this is a horrible man. I don't care if the state didn't prove his case. I saw these videos and I'm going to convict him no matter what happens. But there's going to be some people in the jurors who are going to be like, wait, this is Sean Combs. This is the famous, music artist. I've grown up and watched him. I've listened to his music. It is always hard to convict a celebrity because there's juror studies that show jurors sometimes fall in love or have a liking to people they like. Or they know. So there's people in the jurors who grew up listening to his music. They might not care whatever he did. They might say, well, that's Sean Combs. That's the guy I watched growing up watching his musical videos, and I'm not convicting him.
On the worst day of my life, I got a check in the mail. And inside here was a $40,000
thinking once the jurors might come out and speak.
And, we were talking yesterday, Ben, about the biggest part of the case is really the jury selection and really getting those jurors that you believe that are going to be good for your side. How much does defense prosecution really try to eye in on jury experts and really try to get them on their side so they could kind of pinpoint who to pick?
No, that's an excellent question, Mike, because the jurors are the ones who decide the case. So even after all of this testimony, opening statements, closing statements, the key thing is to get 12 jurors who will agree to either convict for the prosecution or acquit and find them not guilty for the defense. So we bring in juror experts to look at the jurors because this is the thing. The lawyers, I mean, they're doing so much. You know, they're taking notes, they're asking questions, but you need somebody who's an expert whose only focus there is to look at jurors' nonverbal cues, whether or not they're falling asleep, they're laughing, they're nodding, or they're turning their head, shaking their head no. So having a juror expert to pick the juror is the key. That's the most important thing of the trial because these are the people at the end of the day who decide whether or not you win or lose your case.
Now, do they stay on during the course here of this trial to pinpoint maybe like, hey, number 4 looks really good to us?
So that determines about how much money a person has. So the prosecution has a lot of money. They could bring their juror expert in there to kind of just sit there and kind of watch the jurors' faces and say, hey, you know what? Juror number 5 looks like they're dozing off when you speak. Or juror number 8 is nodding every time you say something. So that's a favorable juror. So if Sean Combs has enough money to keep a juror expert in there, because it comes down to money. I mean, they're not doing this for free. So if he has enough money to pay this juror expert, they can stay as long as they want. And same thing with the prosecution. If the federal government wants to pay for somebody to stay in the courtroom, they can do that and sit there all throughout trial and giving notes to the prosecution or the defense saying, yes, watch out for this juror. They're falling asleep, or that juror's with us because they're nodding their head every time you ask a question.
Now, Ben, do you think there was some worry on really both sides, prosecution and defense? We just had a long Memorial Day weekend. Obviously, jurors are allowed to go home at the end of trial. Worry that, you know, you'd have a barbecue cookout and, you know, maybe you're drinking some cocktails, having some beers, and you're letting some of the details slip out of court?
Yeah, that's always the concern because these jurors are there all day. They're not sequestered. They're going home to their family. So somebody might be like, hey, where have you been for the past 2-3 weeks? And I've been sitting on that jury. Oh, you've been sitting on that Sean Combs jury? Yes. And they're here, they're drinking some cocktails, and then it spills out. So they're not supposed to talk about this trial to anybody until the trial is done. But this always happens. But if a juror does do that, and the judge finds out, that juror will be kicked off, and there's what's called alternate jurors. There's alternate jurors who are there to replace any jurors who just get sick or do something illegal that they can't stay on the jury. So they always have alternate jurors, especially for long trials like this, just in case that happens. A juror just gets sick or does something that they're not supposed to do.
And so far, and none of that has really come out. It's been weeks on, and the jury is still intact here. For these alternates that are continuing to listen in and take their notes, but I mean, do you think they're hoping that there's a crack in one of these jurors that they could get on, or is it more of like, you know, because at the end of the day, they could be part of this trial the whole time and not even have a say?
That's the one thing about being selected as an alternate in the trial. If you're selected as an alternate in the trial, you sat there for all this long period of time, and some alternates are a little bit upset, being like, I wish I could have been in there to help make the final decision of guilty or not guilty. So it's not a total waste of time, but yeah, it's a waste of their time in the sense of they're sitting on a case. However, that's part of the process, unfortunately. And because these long trials are here, you have to have alternates because you don't want to have a mistrial and have to do this whole thing all over again because you don't have 12 jurors. You need 12 jurors at the end of the day. We're going to go back in that room and decide whether or not Sean Combs is guilty or not guilty.
Yeah, so true. And Ben, lastly here, I just want to talk to you really about what I've been seeing here in this case, and it's pretty much called the Diddy effect or the Sean Combs effect, where we're hearing from these witnesses that are part of the prosecution. Obviously, some of their star witnesses coming on, and they'll talk about all of the bad things that Sean Combs has done, some of the allegations against him. But at the end of the day, it's this Sean Combs effect where when they ask, you know, do you still like the guy or do you still care for him? And they pretty much all say, yeah, I do. At the end of the day,
let their kids go stay with him.
Kind of side with the defense.
It can be. It's like people who are in some bad relationships. I mean, you might be in a bad relationship. You might be in a bad marriage. And you might not, you know, actually, like, you know, like the person you're with. But at the end of the day, you might still love, you know. I mean, so this was kind of like the Diddy effect right here. They might not like what Sean Combs allegedly has done to them physically or mentally. But they might still, they work with him. He's paid them. So deep down in their hearts, they might still have some sort of affection towards him. So it's a weird conundrum there, and it's a weird psyche, but you hear that a lot in some cases that, hey, I might not like the person, I don't like what they did to me, but I still have some sort of affection for you.
And another thing that I thought was interesting today, when
some people identify with their abuse
on the stand before Mia, I thought this was interesting that during the cross, the defense knew that the stylist, just days after Cassie was on the stand, that he called her. How did they find that information out?
I mean, you ask your client, and I mean, your defense attorney, you just go and ask Sean Combs, did Cassie ever call you after this? And he'll say yes. So basically, you can ask Sean Combs, and Sean Combs is there whispering in the ears of his defense attorney, and they're telling him nuggets of saying, ask this question. This is the key to what we need to do.
He the ninth chair.
Okay. Yeah, I was always wondering, because I was like, that is interesting that they're able to get those tidbits, but you're having Sean Combs there is probably the easiest and fastest way to get that info.
Yeah, I mean, having Sean Combs there right there, basically, he is telling them what to do. I mean, he is saying, hey, this is what we need to do, and this is the question that has happened. So if Cassie is lying on the stand, all Sean Combs has to do is just turn his head and say, hey, defense attorney, this is a lie. This is the text message that I sent her. She called me. So even though she's trying to say that I beat her up or I did all this stuff bad to her, you see that she called me, she reached out to me. So, I mean, Sean Combs is his best expert witness. We talk about expert witnesses. Like, Sean Combs has lived all of this. He's been everywhere for this. So no matter what witness takes the stand, Sean Combs is going to be writing notes in the courtroom to his defense attorney to say, ask them this, ask them that. Oh, this doesn't make sense because they're saying X, Y, and Z. I was there as Sean Combs, and I know this wasn't there because we have another witness. So Sean Combs is his own best witness who is helping his defense attorney poke holes in anything that the witness said.
Yeah, no doubt. And when you have your life on the balance of either life in prison or getting out, you're totally going to be engaged and wanting to get every little detail there to your defense team. So, Ben, thanks so much for joining us, as always, breaking down another big day in court. We appreciate it, as always.
Anytime, Mike. Thank you.
Our thanks always to Ben Taylor. You are watching live now from Fox. Back out live right here. Again, we are worldwide for you, bringing you the latest as Mia is still on the stand. Let's give you some of the details, a little bit of the back and the forth that we are getting from court reporters that are inside of the courtroom right now. Prosecution says, was there violence in their relationship? Mia says, yes.
Yeah. And do you fight back when he says something? You know, I do have a slick mouth. It's okay.
Yeah, she talks slick a lot. She talks really
we work together well, and I don't know. I guess the music will just have to speak for itself when people hear it. I'm really excited for it because I've been working on it for a long time.
She has great instincts. There's a lot of things that people just don't know. Like a lot of people, sometimes when you have a certain look to you, especially when you're beautiful, quote unquote beautiful, that's all people can see. They can't really see past that. And I think that's one of the things that's going to rock people to sleep this year on her. She has that special thing, intellectual love, and it'll be coming coming out probably end of the year, top of the year, but we're going to make sure we set it
Hey,
up right. We're
Catherine.
going to really do some unique strategic things with her, you know?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And do you fight back when he says sub, you know?
I do have a slick mouth. And it's okay. But
Yeah, she talks slick a lot. She talks
we work together well. And I don't know. I guess the music will just have to speak for itself when people hear it. I'm really excited for it because I've been working on it for a long time.
And she has great instincts. There's a lot of things that people just don't know. Like a lot of people, sometimes when you have a certain look to you, especially when you're beautiful, quote unquote beautiful, that's all people can see. They can't like really see past that. And
wow.
And I think that's one of the things that's gonna rock people to sleep this year on her. She had that special thing. Intellectual loving.
She look afraid here.
Probably end of the year,
hey,
top of the
Marlene.
year, but we're gonna make sure we set it up right. We're gonna really do some unique strategic things with her, you know?
She believed it. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get out of here. Let me get back over here.
Mr. Combs' role with respect to her career.
Wow.
Mia
She
said
looked scared there
decided
to
on
me as
everything.
well.
Shows the look. Prosecution then showed an exhibit. What is this, they asked. Mia says an email from Cass to Puff and others, including me. Prosecution says, when did she send it? Mia says it was 4 a.m. It says 7 a.m., but we were in California. It was one of their hotel nights. Prosecution says, what did she write? Mia says she was canceling, apologizing to Interscope and others. Prosecution says, did Mr. Combs respond? Please read. Mia says, Cass wrote about telling Slevin Hill. Prosecution says, what did she mean, do you think? Mia says, Stephen...
That wasn't an objection?
BET. Cass wrote, no support, no show. Prosecution says, why did you forward this to Tony Fletcher? Mia says, I had to keep her informed. She was in charge of booking hotels. Prosecution says, did you ever see Mr. Combs on a movie set? Mia says, yes. Everyone would be very nervous. He would insert himself. Prosecution says, what was his role with respect to Cassie's appearance? Mia says he was in charge of it. Prosecution says, did you have exposure to Cassie's finances? Mia says, yes. Prosecution says, how? Mia says, I learned the company paid her credit cards and that the places where she lived were under his company names and her cars. Prosecution says, did he take things away? Mia says, yes, cars and jewelry and support if he couldn't get her on the phone. Mia then said, he'd been keeping tabs on her through me. Prosecution says, was it part of your job to spend this time with Cassie? Mia says, yes, I had to do whatever Puff told me to do. Prosecution asks, could you go where you wanted? Mia says, no, we had to be where Puff told us we could be. Prosecution says, and if not, Mia says something very scary. The punishment was unpredictable but terrifying. Prosecution says, we'll talk some more about that as we get through your testimony. How would Mr. Combs communicate with Ms. Ventura? Mia says, sometimes through me. Prosecution says, did you see violence? What kind? Mia says, I saw a lot of the aftermaths and injuries she had. I've seen him attack her and throw her on the ground. I've seen him crack her head open. I've seen him chase her, things like that. Prosecution says, did she fight back? Mia says, no. Prosecution then said, what did you hear and see? Mia says, suitcases being thrown in the foyer. Prosecution says, did you see Cassie after that? Mia says, she was outside crying in a bush. She looked terrified. She gestured,
in a bush?
I'm hiding. I'm not here. Prosecution says, what did you do? Mia says, retreat it. Prosecution says, did you tell anyone? Mia says, I think the chef was in the kitchen. The sentiment was Combs' defense team objected. Judge sustained. Prosecution says, what did the chef say to you? The defense objected again. Prosecution says, not for the truth. The judge sustained. Prosecution, what happened in Cassie's apartment? Mia says, we were there, me, Cass, and Deonte Nash. Prosecution says, what were you doing? Mia says, helping her pack for a big trip to London. Puff came banging on the door, very irate. Prosecution says, how did he get in? Mia says, a key from the front desk. Prosecution says, what was Mr. Combs asking Cassie? Mia says, he said, Have you been drinking or something? She hadn't answered his calls. Prosecution says, what did Mr. Combs do? Mia says he came after me and Deonte screaming as she'd been drinking. He was crazy aggressive. He attacked her. Mia then said he threw her to the ground. Me and Deonte jumped in and tried to stop it. Prosecution says, what did you do? Mia says Deonte is very small in comparison to Puff. There was a little tornado going on. He had Deonte in a position where I was scared he was going to kill him. Mia then says, so I jumped on Puff, but he threw me off and against the wall. I felt like I was in slow motion. I realized we were in big danger. He ran into the bedroom and grabbed Cass. Under the bed is the wood bed platform. He slammed her head into the corner. Prosecution says, what injuries did Cassie get? Mia says her head was gushing blood. Prosecution says, what did Mr. Combs do? Mia says he got into protector survivor mode. He said to call Dr. So-and-so and tell them Cass was drunk and hit her head. Prosecution says, why did you do it? Mia says, Puff told me to. Mia then says his eyes were black. It was like he was going through me. He was just completely, the judge says, let's get to the next question.
Demonic.
Prosecution says, did you see Mr. Combs take drugs? Mia says, yes. Prosecution says, when he was high, how did he appear? Mia says, sometimes the life of the party, or he was hyper. Prosecution says, where was this? Mia says, Ibiza or Burning Man or a music conference. Prosecution says, when he smashed her head, did he seem high? Mia says, no. Prosecution says, did you go to Prince's party? Mia says, yes. Prosecution says, what happened the night before? Mia says, a big award ceremony, a suite in the Beverly. Mia then says, he told me to stay with Cassie, that he was going to be at his house with his kids, but then I heard about Prince's party. Prosecution says, what did you do? Mia says, Cass and I debated like little kids if we should sneak out of the house and go to Prince's party. Mia then says, Prince performed on a little table. Then I saw Puff come in with his bucket hat. We locked eyes. I thought, oh crap, Cass just booked it. Prosecution says, where did you go? Mia says, across the street there were woods or bushes, but Puff caught Cass and had her on the ground. Mia said Puff started to attack her, but Prince's security quickly intervened. Prosecution says, and later, Mia says, I went to another hotel. The next day, HR told me Puff was suspending me without pay. Prosecution said, did she say why? Mia says that Puff said I was being insubordinate.
What?
Prosecution then went on to say, we have subpoenaed from Verizon phone records. Ms. Garagos has agreed that if Your Honor finds them admissible, you can give them to us and we can get them. Combs' defense says that's fine. The judge says, let's get Mia back. So prosecution continued after the break. Mia, you were speaking about violence between Mr. Combs and Cassie. Have you traveled to Turks and Caicos? Mia says, yes, to Parakeet twice in 2012, me, Puff, and Cass. Prosecution says, what happened? Mia says, I was sleeping in my bedroom and I was woken up. Mia says, Cass ran in saying, you've got to help me. He's going to kill me. Prosecution says, what did you do? Mia says, we started pushing furniture in front of the door to try to block it. Puff was banging and screaming. I had a porch that went out to the beach. We ran. Prosecution says, what do you remember about running? Mia says, I remember being amazed that even while running fast, we could be attacked by bugs. Prosecution says, did you run another time? Mia says, I have another visual of where we were hiding, of trying to escape like 2 separate times. Mia says, we got into paddle boards and went on the water. Puff was on the beach screaming at us. It was flat and we went out far. Puff got smaller and smaller on the beach. The sky got dark and Combs' team objected. The judge overruled. Mia says, we went back. Prosecution says, did you ever call the police? Mia says, no. Prosecution asked, why not? Mia says, I believe Puff's authority was above the police. This was before social media and ME2. There were no examples of people standing up. I thought it was under the confidentiality deal with Puff's business. Prosecution then says, what's this? Mia says, a photo of Cass eating a hot dog at the premiere of her movie, The the perfect match. She has bruising under her makeup. I took the photo. Prosecution says, any other injuries covered up on a red carpet? Mia says, yes, at a film festival. Prosecution says, what injuries did you see? Mia says, a busted lip, she was injured. Prosecution says, where were you? Mia says, in her hotel room with Larry Sims, her hairstylist. Prosecution says, did you learn how she got the injuries? Mia says, Cass has an audio recording of Puff attacking her. Prosecution says, how did Cassie sound on the audio recording? Combs, defense team
Okay,
objected,
I've heard
judge
that. Yeah,
ruled.
we've heard this,
Mia
right?
says, panicked. I heard the sound of someone getting hit. Prosecution says, did you go to the events? Mia says, the premiere of Brad Pitt's movie, Killing Them Softly. Prosecution says, what happened at the premiere? Mia says, Puff was digging his nails into her arm.
Yeah, we heard
her
this.
arm and talking low. And go to be empowered by the show, really his, not only his power, but his influence and money as well. But how will the defense try to really chip away at that and then also kind of showcase, okay, maybe it's not about power, but maybe these people wanted to just be around a celebrity.
Oh, no.
Black car with Capricorn.
Okay, hold on.
Clark. Prosecution then says, did you reach out to anyone? Mia says, yep.
The viral 30-second pink salt trick that melts fat was actually featured on the Today Show. But for those who...
New York City, we are monitoring testimony in federal court in Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial. On the stand now is a woman who's going by the name Mia. And we have a live update from our own Scripps News reporter, Alex Miller, who has been inside of that courtroom and courthouse and now outside. Alex, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Tell me what the key moments are. What is Mia saying on the stand?
Well, Mia is on the stand. She's been on the stand since late morning, and she's likely to be on the stand through Friday. Prosecutors are utilizing her in part to prop up their argument that Sean Combs essentially abused his employees. And though she was only his personal assistant for about a year, she described it as chaotic and toxic. She said the highs were really high and the lows were incredibly low, and it was an incredibly high-pressure work environment. In fact, she was rarely home. Her friends called her a ghost because she was always with Sean Combs. She worked 24 hours straight her first day on the job. She thought maybe that this was a bit of a test, but it turns out that that was a regular occurrence. One time she worked 5 days straight without sleep. She said she had to utilize ADOLPH in order to be able to do so. She said Combs really was in charge of her life. When she stayed with him at his house, she was not allowed to lock her bedroom door, and that goes to one of her allegations. She has alleged on the stand that Sean Combs sexually assaulted her on more than one occasion. She also said he physically abused her by throwing things at her. She said he once threw her in a pool, dumped a bucket of ice on her, and that was a regular part of her day-to-day life as his employee, at least as his personal assistant. She later worked for him in a different capacity, but she's also one of Cassie Ventura's very best friends, was and still is, and she was able to testify to the amount of control that Diddy had over Cassie as well, saying that Mia was to text Diddy photos of the hair, nails, clothing that Cassie wanted to wear, and that Diddy had to approve it before she was able to do so. That he had control over their friendship, that she wasn't allowed to do anything with Cassie, leave his house without the approval, and if he didn't approve, there was a punishment, not only physical abuse, but he'd take away her car, take away certain jewelry, things of that nature as well. She said that the punishment essentially was typically unpredictable, but typically pretty terrifying. And then lastly, just before lunch, she described that scene that we heard Cassie describe and Deonte Nash when Cassie was beat up in her bedroom by Diddy in front of both Nash and Mia to the point where she was bleeding from her head. She described that situation as incredibly terrifying, saying that she tried to get Diddy to stop, but he wouldn't. She says his eyes turned black and that he was essentially looking right through her. She says those are the moments where she really knew that not only Cassie was in incredible danger, but that he was as well, that she was as well.
Alex, you are just sharing these harrowing details, and though we don't have those cameras, we can imagine what it's like inside of that courtroom with Mia on the stand. This was slated to be an 8-week trial, so it would end sometime in July. We're hearing that it may be sooner that things are wrapping up. What are you hearing there on the ground?
Yeah, we are hearing that it might wrap up sooner. They are trying to keep things incredibly on schedule or ahead of schedule, despite the fact that we didn't have court on Friday or Monday because of the Memorial Day holiday. We are now hearing that they might be able to wrap up the prosecution's case within the first 2 weeks of June. The trial was initially slated to go until just before the 4th of July holiday, but if they are to be able to wrap up within the first 2 weeks of June, we're expecting the defense to take about a week or so. So it looks like they could be a week or two ahead of schedule.
Miller, thank you for the very latest there in New York City. Let's turn our attention to our guests who are standing by and see what they think about where we are in the Diddy trial. Criminal defense attorney Jessica Lettingham and former deputy public defender for LA County, Philip Dubé. Jessica, let me start with you. We've got Mia on the stand. That's the name that she's going by. She's actually in the indictment in this case. So basically, it's Cassie Ventura and Mia who are named. Talk about whether the allegations that you're hearing, whether that equals racketeering and sex trafficking.
Yeah, she has been a witness from the beginning that I have been really wanting to see. I think yesterday was a major turning point for the prosecution. We finally saw some real trafficking evidence when the assistant, the makeup artist, one of Cassie's friends said, yeah, I saw Diddy say that he was making her do this freak off on her 29th birthday. We finally got the forcing. Now with Mia, we will also finally see some forcing of the sex. And so we're finally getting there with the sex trafficking. The racketeering, trafficking is one of the predicate offenses, one of the 2 predicate offenses. So it may get us there, but they're not there yet with the racketeering charge.
Okay, Jessica, you brought up Deonte Nash's testimony, that Stylist. It really was powerful. We have a clip. It's AI generated from the details inside of that courtroom in our notes, but let's take a listen to what he described in that moment about that alleged force and potential blackmail.
When I started drinking warm night water to help me lose weight, my friends laughed at me. But when they saw how fast I changed, they all started doing it themselves. Apparently, thousands of women are already
force and potential blackmail.
What conversations, if any, do you remember having with Mr. Combs ahead of Cassie's 29th birthday?
Should he surprise her for her birthday?
Is that what he asked you?
Yes.
How did you respond?
I told him if you want to.
Now, why did you tell Mr. Combs to come if he wanted to, if you'd seen him do all of this violence to Cassie?
Girl, I was not about to tell him. He couldn't come give that girl a party.
What do you remember happening at the birthday party there?
As they were leaving, Puff was telling Cassie, you, I do all this. I'll do everything for you, and you just can't do this one thing for me.
Did you end up speaking with Cassie at the Cavatina about Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Were you 2 alone?
It was a couple people around.
What do you remember Cassie saying to you at the Cavatina?
I asked her about Puff. I was like, girl, what is he over there doing? What is he talking about? And Cassie said, girl, he's just mad because I don't want to go to the hotel and freak off with him.
Deonte Nash also testified about videos of the freak-offs and Cassie being worried that they would be leaked. Philip Dubé, are we getting there with racketeering, in your opinion?
Not even close. Honestly, I know I'm going out on a limb here, but really what we're seeing is an end run around the state statute of limitations periods for domestic violence and maybe pimping and pandering. The statute of limitations, I believe, out here is 4 years. So any assault on Cassie would have had to have been brought many years ago. The pimping and pandering, I think, is an 8-year statute. So what's the problem? The problem is they can't get them stateside. So what do? You resort to Plan B and you go federal. general, and they're using these creative avenues to try to get him under a trafficking, a RICO theory, or transportation for prostitution. And I think it's falling short, but we're still in the infancy stages of the case. And I'm anxious to hear what, if anything, they have next, because right now what I'm not seeing is all these predicate acts occurring in the ordinary course of the Combs enterprise, as opposed to just isolated instances of violence against Cassie. And certainly it's not to trivialize what happened to the young lady. I just don't think it's properly charged under RICO, the Mann Act, and transportation for prostitution.
And Philip, a follow-up for you, since you're there in LA County, and a lot of these alleged incidents happened there. We've got Mia on the stand talking about just horrible things as an employee for Combs, and she alleges violence as well, that he threw her into a pool, that he put ice on her, that he grabbed her a lot. Forced labor is what it is called in the indictment. Is this something, I don't want to say is common, but sometimes we do have people coming out about their celebrity bosses.
Don't nobody hire him. Don't hire that man.
Do you think that this should be added to the racketeering case in the way that we've heard it?
Well, if you think about it, what would they be adding? It would just be a form of aggravated assault, which I guess is one of the predicate offenses. And I guess in theory they could. I think the defense would cry foul for alleging this type of late amendment, but certainly they could foresee it because they perceived all the discovery. You know, the problem that the defense has when you cut through it all, Julia, is that they don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt each predicate act. In fact, the jury doesn't even have to reach unanimity as to each predicate act. The jury can just look at all the behavior in its totality and say, yeah, they've satisfied predicate act sort of in the abstract and get the guy. I just am fundamentally opposed to it, and I'm not sure it rises to that level yet. We're getting there, though, but right now we're still riding the train.
Alex Miller told us they've got about 2 more weeks of prosecution witnesses. We will continue to keep everyone updated on what happens.
This is the pink salt recipe.
I don't like him at all.
98 to 147 in just weeks.
He missed a whole bunch of stuff, didn't he? And I do mean a whole bunch. What I got next? Let's go to my girl. I was supposed to go to her earlier.
Listen, we found out who Mia is. She just took the stand.
This was earlier, y'all.
Mia just took the stand. Diddy is hot. Now, Deonte Nash literally cooked Diddy's defense team. He finished the cross-examination. He did what needed to be done. He let Diddy know. And let me tell you something. When Deonte Nash was testifying, let me wipe my screen. When Deonte Nash was testifying, Diddy was hot. Diddy was bothered, and Deonte was just twisting it in. And I said, baby, we'd love to see it.
Shout out to Taste
we did
Hotel.
actually find out who Mia is. Why is this so devastating? Because, and let me walk you in before we reveal the Mia thing, okay? Why is this so devastating? Well, it's devastating for a number of things. Diddy wants you to believe that all the extreme violence he did toward Cassie was related to domestic violence. It wasn't a pattern. It wasn't a RICO. It wasn't anything to do with forfeiture, because federal forfeiture, because baby Diddy needs to keep all his houses and all his money. No. Diddy wants us to believe that this is just grown people mess. What people do in relationships. Diddy wants to push that incel, toxic, pick-me narrative of it was just jealousy gone wrong. And Cassie had just stayed in the house, jumped up, stood on one leg, barked like he told her, none of this would have happened. If Cassie was a better woman, if she had learned to be a better cook, if she had done anything, then guess what? She would have never had to worry about the violence. What did Kalina say? When she was on that one thing, if she wanted to be treated like a queen, she had to act like one. However, with Mia's testimony, it ties into RICO, it ties into coercion, it ties into everything, and we made notes. Now, I know y'all want to know who Mia is. We are about to get into this, but they have been dropping clues the whole time. And the funny thing is, if my estimation is correct, Mia's ex-boyfriend or then whatever has been on behalf of Diddy already starting the rah-rah and bad-mouthing about 2 weeks ago. Keep in mind, Diddy knows who Mia is. The courts know who Mia is. They even showed the jury her passport photo, I believe. So she is known, and if you know her, you know her. Shanika Bellencourt said, was Mia on VH1? I want to work for Diddy. Amy Smith Hightower sent one gift. Thank you so much for gifting a membership. Also, where are we at? Did I miss any things? Okay, thanks, guys. All right, first of all, we had to talk about Deonte Nash's testimony, okay? Now, listen, I don't know what the defense thought they were doing on prosecution, but they never had a witness like Deonte Nash. He is a celebrity stylist. He came in cute with a folded balloon, jeans, oversized on his Tokyo drift mask. He had on a little jacket. I think it was the Rick Owens jacket. Maybe he was doing what needed to be done. I said, let me inbox Deonte because I need a stylist. Y'all always telling me I be out here looking crazy. I need a stylist. Mama want to do that thing. All right, but let me be serious, okay? But I am going to reach out to Deonte. Deonte, the defense tried to trip him up so much. And isn't it true? He was asking him questions, and all of a sudden Deonte was like, let me stop you right there, okay? I introduced Cassie to Michael B. Jordan, and he dispelled the lies about whether Diddy and Cassie were together. Oh, so you introduced her while she had a man? And she's like, everybody, they broke up. Oh, how'd you find out? He said, Diddy's staff told me. Everybody knew they broke up because Diddy was out here running the streets with Gina. Then they were like, oh my God, was she jealous of Gina? Deonte looked at him and said, I mean, at first, but she looked at it like, okay, good. He was right. She said, Cassie was impressed about Gina. Again, I can see why. Gina ain't have no benefits. Gina was just a side girl. And this ain't no shade to Gina because I'm sure she is in the middle of some sort of abusive relationship. I don't know. I don't want to speak about it, but she is still with Diddy, and judging by the way Diddy behaves, yeah, Gina is nah. Florcy LaBelle, thank you so much for joining. Eileen Bell, thank you so much for the super chat. Ivy Curtis said, love your content, lunch on me. Thank you, Ivy. Also, Tammy Payton, thank you so much for the super chat. Designed by Phoebe said, always so beautiful. Thanks for all your hard work. Thank you. Just wait till I reach out to Deonte Nash. She gonna get me together. Also, Lloyd J. Diggs, thank you so much for the super chat. Sports Talk Highlights and More said, y'all make sure you follow Sports Talk Highlights and More. Said we found Mia was Sarah Snedeker. She and Diddy was executive producing a show about her life. Google it, everyone. Let me just say this, right? Let me get back to the Deonte story, and then we're going to hit Mia. There was a lot that happened in court. I got about like 25 more minutes with y'all. We're going to break it all down, right? That's the ambulance they sitting to revive Diddy's career, right? Okay, first of all, Deonte was like, remember this whole thing that last weekend was trending about how Cassie was a ho-ho-ho and Cassie was cheating on Diddy and all this other stuff, right? Therese Hopkins said, girl, you're going to mess around and they're going to name a Barbie after you, Tisa Stones. It's gonna be called Running Late Barbie, right? As long as they got that Barbie's edges laid, we good. Hill, known at Block TV, said, hi, Tisa, best ever. Keep up the amazing reporting. Love you. Thank y'all. Okay, so listen. Deonte was like, I was told by Diddy's staff that Diddy and Cassie had broken up. Diddy was all over South Beach with Gina. Cassie was filming the movie. I saw Michael B. Jordan. I said, hell, you fine, he fine. Let's get y'all together. And he said, and yes, I pushed him to call him, right? Diddy was sitting there mad, getting upset. Hey, Ashley Osborne, thank you so much for the cash out. Was sitting there mad, upset. I said, Diddy is about to have a convulsion. And Deonte was loving it. He was literally sitting there unbothered. He said, oh, so Cassie was the one to pursue Michael B. Jordan? Deonte was like, not really. I mean, a little bit, but they was just talking, right? Helping Karma said, love your positivity and kindness. Thank you. M said, always looking forward to your breakdowns. Thank you. And life lessons, the Lion said, Diddy is a demon. He is. Love you, Tisa. Super Chef Ty said, I'll buy the Tisa Tells all. Oh, thank y'all. So listen, right? So Deonte was digging it in. He said, and then they said, do you know this person, Andre something? He said, who's that? Oh, you mean the cute football player? Then they said, do you know somebody else? She's like, you mean the cute NBA player? Yeah, I know all that. Because again, everybody 2 weekends ago that was literally like, Cassie was probably going through early labor pains, talking about, oh my God, you cheated on Diddy, to come to find out that Diddy was cheating on her the whole time. I've said it once and I've said it again. You cannot, if you got hoes, if you cheating, we're not in a relationship. And I don't got to tell you, you just forfeited. We both cheating. Just know, if you're cheating,
they don't look at it like that.
You just don't know about it yet. Okay? C0C0NSP said, Sarah Snyder. Neat, thank you so much for the super chat. Okay, Deonte also let us know that Diddy's violence was unmatched. Kim Shaw Christensen said, "Loved your coverage and energy. Thank you for keeping the rest of us in the know." Listen, let me just tell y'all something. When I get home for a further breakdown, we are going to break down every little quip, one-liner, and Deonte, they wasn't ready for Deonte. And I see why Herm and Cassie are still like this to this day. They did try something toward the end when they're like, remember when you said that Cassie said, "I don't want to do free calls anymore"? He was like, "Yeah." He said, "Haven't you been interviewing with the government since last year?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, then why is it?" Cassie ended testifying on the 16th. I said, "Okay." They said, "And then all of a sudden, on the 17th, you meet with Cassie." He said, "That's correct. You mean Mrs. Fine?" "That's correct." Then they were like, and Deonte was just sitting there playing with them. He was too quick with it for Diddy's team. He said, "That's correct." Also, why were all of Diddy's boys in court today supporting this? I don't know. Were they trying to intimidate, show a show of force? It was really weird. Now, I'm not saying they were doing anything particularly violent, but I just find it the way that they were gone for all those many days. And as soon as Deonte shows up, they all sitting there in full force. Again, maybe it was nothing, but you know.
Cause Gene Deal was told not to come to court for a little while after he had that little outbreak in the courtroom. That's why they popped out.
Diddy's middle name is intimidation, so I don't know. Maybe the apple don't fall far from the intimidation tree. Okay, so Deonte was like, okay, yeah, I met with her on 17th.
Which I felt like was staged.
So when did you tell the government that she didn't want to do the free calls? He said, I don't quite know. Then they were like, okay, well, if that's the case and you don't know, is it not true that you didn't even mention it until after? Hey, there go Mel. Hey, what's up, Mel? Is that true that you didn't even mention it till afterwards, right? And he was like, he was like, not necessarily. He's like, you didn't mention it till after you met with Cassie. And he said, so why did you just get it the day after you met with her? Because y'all talk every day, right? Y'all do this and that. And he was like, because that's when the government asked me. That's when the government asked me. Mel, you want to give your opinion? Hold on, we're going to get Mel to get an opinion. That's when the government asked me. And Diddy's team was like, because they were trying to imply. Also, on Diddy's team, all those things they said about getting Dr. Hughes' testimony out and all this other stuff, stop listening to these people. Nothing got thrown out. Everything got to say. Diddy, you really thought you was going to get 2 weeks of testimony thrown? Have you lost your... Of course you lost your mind. Anyway, we got Mel. What's up, Mel?
Hey, Mel from Watching the World 777 on YouTube and TikTok.
He is doing a correspondence all over YouTube. I'm trying to get him to make an appearance, but make sure y'all follow Mel. Mel, what was your take so far with Deonte and also where we're at with Mia?
Deonte, I was okay with him. He was a little too testy for me. I thought he came across.
I loved it.
You know, it was a little challenge. But today, I was almost emotional hearing her. She couldn't even get her words together. So she came across as very convincing. I saw some of the jury that I thought would swing for Diddy. I saw them today put their heads down. So we're in deep trouble right now.
Diddy's in deep trouble.
As far as Diddy's side for the defense. As far as the prosecutors, we're very strong right now, so that's just how it goes. But these people were beaten senseless, and I don't condone it. That's all I can tell you.
Thank you, Mel. Why don't you give your socials one more time?
Watching the World 777, and all men, don't abuse women, children, don't abuse nobody, behave yourself. Thanks.
Exactly. Thank you, Mel. Okay, Becky said sending you, or Becky said sending this one just to hear, Yana, thank you for all you're doing. All right, y'all. So also, Helping Karma said Diddy has years of freak-offs in his future, only with no baby oil. Gross. Okay, we're about to get to Mia, because the way she came in, hold on, let me give y'all a visual. You mind holding this really quick right there? Thank you. So Mia came in like this. Mia came in, and she was just all in tan. And she came in like Professor Snape. When I say she looked like she had seen better days, she looked like an abused puppy. She came in like Professor Snape, just like this. She had her bangs in her face. She came in, she looked like an abused puppy. She was looking left and right. She came, she stood on the stand. She's like, hi. Yes, that is my passport photo. And every single time she opened her mouth, it sounded like she was, thank you, it sounded like she was breaking down. It was actually really, really sad to see. Janine Fullerton got me hooked on TT. Said yes. Listen, I'm not even trying to make fun of her. She literally did look terrified. She looked broken. She looked like an abused puppy. Now, Diddy's side looked like they were rolling their eyes, not the thing, but the people and the supporters. But at the end of the day, whether she was being genuine or fake.
Yeah, please support the platform.
Whether she was like saying
hit the like
real
button
or fake, at the
send
end
the
of the
cash
day,
app
it
for
did what needed
super
to be done.
sticker, super
But here's the
chat.
thing: anybody who thought she was faking, oh no, my man, you are sorely mistaken. Because when she started talking, you knew that this wasn't an act. You knew that this man had broken her. She talked about how she had to work, right? She's talked about how she had to work hours, had to do this. Then she talked about the fight when she came in saying, Cassie, you drunk. Jumped on Cassie. Remember Cassie got that big gash on her head? And the thing is, they're restricting, I'm getting an itch in my hair. They are restricting testimony. So that's why we're getting different angles from the story, right? She told the story about when Cassie got her eyes split open, the way they were fussing this and that. Diddy's eyes had blacked out. They thought he was going to murk Cassie, right? Beauty with Fawcett, keep going, my favorite YouTube reporter. They said, so Diddy thought that, hold on a second, let me show y'all. Diddy, so they said they came in, and Diddy came into the house like, what the F is you? You've been drinking? And they were just like, oh my God. They said that Diddy jumped on Cassie and was just slinging her around, beating her up, kicking and hitting her, right? They jumped on Diddy's back. Diddy was like the Tasmanian devil and literally was throwing them off, slamming them to the wall. She said at one point, she saw him holding Deonte, and she was like, he is going to kill this man. So she jumped on Diddy's neck. Diddy spun around and went, and literally put her into the wall. Then she said to her horror, he saw her pick up Cassie. She said Cassie had like a very modern platform bed, and you couldn't miss the sharpest wood. And he literally, after they were trying to jump on him, he literally lifted Cassie up, lifted that girl's body up, and slammed her head into the bed. And when that happened, her whole face busted open and blood started going everywhere. When the blood started going everywhere, Diddy didn't miss a beat. Diddy then calmly said, yo, call so-and-so to get the plastic surgeon on the line and tell the plastic surgeon to fix Cassie's face because she was drunk and she tripped. Diddy been busting people's heads open so much, he got a plastic surgeon online. Now, when I heard that, I said, didn't they say that Diddy did something to Kim Porter on the yacht? When she was having the time of her life and the plastic surgeon had to be flown in to help her, they said send it to Dr. So-and-so and do that stuff, right? Beauty with Flaws said, keep going, my favorite YouTuber, thank you. Mui Intelligente said, thank you for the coverage, you are the bomb. Eileen Bell, thank you so much for being a member for months. Alejandro Andra People, thank you so much. Cicely Hudson, oh my God, thank you for the cash app. Carolyn Williams, thank you so much for the generous super chat. Cash Blue said, Lauren London is guilty too. Long live Nipsey Hussle. Now listen, everybody says Lauren London is very, very loyal to Cassie, but it's going to be interesting to see who she testifies for because she's super tight with Diddy. Solomon Grimm said, Tisa, you're actually channeling this trial. You should make t-shirts for the guilty verdict. Yana in the front. And Diddy did it on the back. Oh my God, that's a great, hold on. I like that idea. Thank you, Solomon. If I make those t-shirts, I'll give you a free one for coming up with that. Thank y'all so much. Yana. And then Diddy did it, right? So anyway, Jane Doe has already started testifying. We're on break until 1:15. I'm about to be on this for like 20 more minutes and I got to run inside. Okay? Anyway, the fact that you've been busting people's heads, so did you have a plastic surgeon on speed dial and you already have this? When I tell you the stories Mia was telling us, it was ridiculous. Now, I gotta be honest with you. I think I know who Mia is. I think that Diddy, remember that passport? If I'm not mistaken, and we'll see, I believe that based upon information believe that Mia is going to testify that Diddy gang raped her by a pool in somewhere in Europe and then left her there, took her passport.
Well, I thought that was Capricorn.
Way back. At first I thought it was Capricorn Clark, but no, it wasn't Capricorn Clark. He literally, if I'm not mistaken, gang rape. We'll see after the trial, but she also said that she's about to testify that that Diddy has SA'd her multiple times. Lucy Garcia said, I look forward to
thought that was
coverage on this
Capricorn part
case.
two.
Also, Table Talk with Mimi exclusive. Make sure y'all follow Table Talk. Said, hey, Tisa, I know you're not negative, but what was going on with the defense is trash, and the content creator I know who look out for starting with a D. I don't know who that is. Y'all know I be in my own world of peace, love, and light. Peace, love, and light. Peace, love, and light. Miss Panama, we ain't got time for that. We're trying to report a trial. Baby, we are trying to report a trial.
Yeah, I thought that was
We're not in the
Capricorn
drama. We don't
part
got time.
two.
I don't know what's going on in the outside
shit.
world. I just know what's going on between me and you, baby. We good. We
I
good.
guess
We good.
that's
Miss
she
Panama,
said
thank you
assistant.
so
I didn't
much
know
for the
he had
super chat.
50 million assistants.
Mr. Master, Mistake Maker said, Tisa, tell the truth. Thank you, right? I did get to see the mysterious Mia.
Please hit the like
she
button.
was
There's
dressed
too many
all in
people in
tan.
here.
She looked like she was very abused. She had like light, can I say it? She had light blonde hair. I do want to say this though. I figured out who Mia is. I know exactly who she is. I'm not going to say her name because I think, and I'm sorry guys,
Oh,
I
wow.
think that Diddy's going to go out of his way to dox her, to get negative stories, and to harass this woman. Mia looks fragile. She looks broken. She is not suing Diddy. Diddy can't say it was everything. She endured years of torment, and now she's bravely. However, I do think that she's going to testify that Diddy gang raped her over in Europe, right? Got mad at her after he gang raped her, left her there, and then, if this is the woman I think it is, and then took her passport and flew everybody back on a private jet and then left her overseas and said that B can find her own way back.
Yeah, when
this is the same
Don-
Mia, absolutely.
Don asked about her.
Limited edition. Listen, let me tell y'all something, right? I know everybody wants me to say Mia's name. I'm 90% certain this is who the girl is. She was, and I gotta be honest with you.
Aubrey O'Day?
Y'all know I would love it for this video to get to like 1 million. But I gotta be honest with you. I'm covering this trial because I actually want to see justice for Diddy.
She said
and I
blonde
don't
hair.
want to say anything that the defense can use to get that monster off. And Diddy's people
It may
are
be
watching,
Aubrey O'Day.
and the defense are watching, and the court's watching. And again, y'all know I love talking trash, but I do have to be responsible. I do have to be responsible, and I do have to honor SA victims. But when Mia is done testifying, and when it is safe to say so that it won't jeopardize the case in any way,
It
I will
was
share everything I
Aubrey
know about
O'Day.
Mia.
So
But yeah,
Aubrey O'Day
they have
or
this
either
and it was confirmed by seeing her. but I
what's the
honestly-
other lady's name? Hold on.
Babe, you listen.
Okay, what
You
year
gotta
was
have-
this?
What
What year was this?
Y'all get what I'm saying? It's not worth it. And if that makes somebody mad, I'm sorry. If y'all feel like I should tell
What's
you,
her name?
you get your butt in here and you go upstairs and you take the victim and dox them just so they can and help Diddy's team dox them. Shara,
so-
thank you so much for the super chat. I mean for the cash app. Also, Whoopi,
Did she say it's not Capricorn? Because I thought it was Capricorn, based on what John has said. So it may be.
Love your genuine heart. Thank you so much. Art by IG.
What's her name?
Thank you so much for
Lorianne
the super chat.
Gibson.
Also, this is Rose said, don't say
And I'm
it with
saying that
respect.
because
Exactly. The people that are in the
now,
courtroom, some people figured it out.
because
Geraldine
I remember
Some people have figured it out, but I don't.
Don
I'm not gonna be anything jeopardized.
said that Lorianne Gibson recommended her
Eileen said,
to
"Stay
file
wretched."
suit.
You guys, thanks so much, but it's not even about being wretched.
So
It's
she was
just the
still
fact that
actively
this case is
involved with her
ongoing
now.
and it's living and breathing. And
Because I don't think Aubrey O'Day was an
someone that was
assistant.
brave enough to come. And the more this case goes on, the more you realize how truly dangerous Diddy is, in my opinion. And the more you realize that, like, I even feel for Don Richards because Don Richards testified, but she's still out there. She's still in the industry. She can still get touched. Listen, Dawn was very brave. Mia's very brave. Cassie was very brave. And I'm going to do my part to make sure they see it to the end of the defense line, right?
Yeah, I need to know
Table
why
Talk with
she
Mimi.
set up
Make
Q,
sure you
though.
follow Mimi. Said defense is trash. It was wrong. Big with their question. It's like, what's your point? The defense was beyond trash. It was just meandering, like, oh my God, you're wasting our time. Wendy Peppercorn said, thank you for doing the right thing by me. You're welcome. Y'all gotta thank me. I'm always, and Pamela Fine, to your point, protect survivors. I'm always gonna protect survivors. Ramona Lisa, we got you, and respect your integrity. Y'all get what I'm saying, because at the end of the day, no matter what this is about, and yeah, sometimes it is funny, sometimes it is ridiculous, sometimes it is heartbreaking, but we will never lose sight of the sight that it is protect the survivors. Now, that said, right? SP said, keep being amazing. Love your energy. Do you think Diddy's team will hunt down Mia for doing this? They already knew who it is at 100%. And the funny thing is, I don't want to dox her, but the team in the last has already been ramping up. Jad Yazzie said, Tisa, you're a real one. Thanks for not sharing her name. We appreciate you, sis. And Blue Sky says, check with an attorney before you say any name. I'm not going to say her name until the prosecution okays it. Not that I talked to the prosecution directly, but until the prosecution okays it, I'm not. What is going on in my face? I got to stop drinking that. I'm not going to say anything. Okay, so listen. Here's the funny thing. Let me tell you really quick how Mia's testimony connects with everything. Okay, hold on, y'all. Listen to what it is, right? What did Mia prove in her testimony? And baby, listen, they haven't even gotten into the nitty gritty. The horror is just unfolding. They spent all morning laying down foundation. I said, they about to ride this till the wheels come off. They said that they were going to be questioning Mia on direct until the end of the day. Diddy is done for. My Shepherd Pie said, praying for victims and justice. And Chocolate Soul said, Tisa, you're also human. Keep up the great work. Y'all, thank you so much. But I know that y'all are right there with me. Like, it's not worth the view and the click, even though I want them all, right? But at the end of the day, it's not worth it to literally put a case in danger and to dox a victim, you know, that doesn't want to be known. So listen to this really quick. What did Mia in her testimony already assert? She literally solidified that Diddy had complete financial control over Cassie and that he used her houses, her cars, her apartments. Danielle Williams, thank you so much for the super chat. Her houses, cars, and everything were paid by Combs Global. Why is that important? Because you just solidified.
Kawhi, you need to call the police.
Meaning that if they get you, whatever offense they get you on, you use your company
Have
assets
you called
to do
the police?
it, which means that they are taking all of that. You can maybe beat some of the charges, but baby, they are going to take everything you own. Cala Dream said, don't feel pressure.
Help you how? Help you how? Have you reached out to the police? Hit my okay, so how can I help you in 2025? Are you still there or have you gotten out? I mean, you're able to be on the internet, so how do you need help? Okay, so you asking me for help. Hit my IG. Don't put this on here. Contact me in IG so I can research you and do some background on you. Run you through the system. I mean, because I don't understand why you're asking me for help and you've already reported it. What are you wanting from me? I hope not money. Not you coming on my platform. So what do you want? Please, my family hates me. I'm telling them the truth so they don't suffer like me. Yeah, Fee about the facts on IG. Reach me, send me a message. I don't accept friend requests, but you can send me a message. I will approve it, and you can send me some message on IG, and then I will do my research for you, okay? How does that sound? Kauai. How does that sound? Okay. Be about the facts.
To tell us who Mia is. Anyone here who matters understands perfectly. Thanks for your eyewitness report. I'm full pressure at all. Please. There was a bully campaign to get me to stop reading super chats. And you know, if I told everybody to go to hell, I damn sure don't feel pressure that somebody's yelling at me about why I won't expose an SA victim. Please. Me? Pressure? Right? Now, she also confirmed Deonte's story and also laid more groundwork for that RICO charge. She was an employee, a high-level employee of Sean Combs Global. He told her, go help Cass. Your job is to babysit. Your job is to keep tabs on Cass. He told me to do it. She is solidifying the RICO that he used Combs Global as a cover to sex traffic women that he lured them in. Oh my God, Brandy Epps, thank you so much for. You said justice for those who have and haven't survived. Exactly. Thank you so much, Brandy. He used Combs Global as a cover to actually lure women in thinking they were in the relationships and treat them nothing like they were like sex workers. Exactly what it is, right? They talk about the communication.
I was trying to sneak me some late lunch.
Text. He would always send multiple employees to find Cassie. Security would show up.
That stopped my lunch, didn't it?
RICO, sex trafficking, and he used employees to do it, not friends. And the security wasn't private security; it was Combs Global Security. Also, CC said, "Love you, teams from the UK. When are you going
another
to be
enterprise, another subsidiary?"
Oh, thank you. Keep shining. Love to hear it too. Thank you. I'm gonna be on probably like around 3 o'clock. And then I'm going to be on later, probably around 5 or 7 o'clock. Cash Blue said, hey, Tisa, sorry for being naive. But Mia, it's just a...
Okay, respectfully, Kawhi, okay? If you're able to type here, then you're able to type in Instagram. It's take the auntie off and just go fee about the facts on Instagram. Okay? Okay? If you're handicapped, your number, I don't give out my phone number. You can talk to me through Instagram or contact your local police department, precious, okay? No, I'm not giving out my phone number. Have you supported my platform? Is this your first time here? Okay. Find a way to reach me on IG. Fee about the facts. That's the only way that we're going to talk about it. Next time, send your question or whatever on a super chat, okay? So I won't have to keep stopping my program to assist you. Okay?
Made up name to keep this person's identity private. Mia is yes. It's not being naive because I was asking these questions in court too. Mia is a completely made up name. That is not who she is. Anything. Now, she did give a lot of identifying information, but Mia is a made up name. Again, she is testifying anonymous. Shalita Smith, Ashigi, said, great job, Tisa. Appreciate your live coverage. Thank you. Oh my God. Stephanie Julian said, I feel so proud of your integrity and your reporting. I feel like I'm in the courtroom. I want to kick Diddy's A all the way from Detroit. Baby, you, me, and I hope the jury. The real Nikki, thank you so much for the super chat. Jen said, thanks, Tisa, for all your hard work. Stephanie, again, thank y'all so much for the generous super chat. Okay, she also laid the groundwork. Sue Lee Buchanan said, thank you for keeping us up to date, Tisa. Keep on shining. Sue Lee Buchanan, thank you, Sue Lee. Mia also laid the grounds for the violence, the coercion. She saw injuries. He saw her attack Cassie. She saw her throw her on the ground, crack her head open, chase her. She never saw Cassie fight back. Sonia said, Tisa, we love you. Thank you. She saw Cassie, the only thing she ever saw Cassie do was beg for him to stop time and time again, right? She said that there were so many times he was violent with her, brought her back, dragged her back. It was too many times to count. I do also want to say this. For people just saying this is just domestic violence, so we need to get over it. Police, guards, security, what is going on in your house that you actually think this is normal?
Right.
Maybe it is that you've seen, but I'm telling you, you need therapy. I don't think you're Dawn Breeden for the cash app. You think this is normal. Not only do you need therapy, but you might, if you're the one doing this, you might actually need to go in jail. I'm just saying. They said that he would control her in hotels.
645 votes on the poll. What's the number?
Chef Jordan when he saw Chef Jordan,
62% say they have proved RICO racketeering. 38% say no.
Going crazy. She went to go tell Chef Jordan. Chef Jordan told her just to ignore it. I don't know. Cece said the campaign to
Out of
stop the super chat is
645
ridiculous. Here's
votes.
another one. Thank you, Cece. Also, Table Talk with Mimi exclusive. Make sure y'all follow.
I
us.
should
What
at least
are
have
the-
645
what are some legal
likes.
reasons on naming her Mia? I think it's just an alias they just found. You know, maybe she said it. We also see more grounds for forfeiture or RICO, the violence and coercion. The violence and coercion, what they did. Also, Tanya Lewis said, thanks again for your great reporting. What's Diddy's facial expressions as the witnesses testify? So here's the thing, when Deonte was testifying, and I'm going to go into details on the next slide we go to. I just want to actually get into it. She talked about the Prince party. That's where we left off. Ali Berry, 874, thank you so much for the super chat. Diddy's expression was hot when Deonte was playing in that man's face.
So was the makeup woman there too? Because she made mention of the Prince party.
Cassie was supposed to be in the bed crying over Gina. Cassie was like, me no worry, me no care. However, he did actually put on the record that Cassie and Diddy were not together when she was in Africa dating Michael B. Jordan. I don't know why that narrative was allowed to run, right? And he let us know that that's Alex's woman now. She's a married now, right? They talk about the Prince party.
They weren't married?
Diddy showed up at the Prince party, gave more information on that, right? C0C0NSP said, but Mia is for sure female. Yeah, I saw her. She's 100% a woman. 100% a woman. 100%. Very small, very fragile, very shaky. Okay? On top of that, what happened? Oh, Kristen Robinson said, thanks for all that you do. You're welcome. Very fragile. Now listen, here's another thing you guys didn't know. So the Prince invited the party. Diddy told Cassie to stay at the F home and told Mia to babysit her so she wouldn't. Thank you, Christina. Also, Army Mom, thank you so much for the super chat. And Darlene Colbert Turner, thank you so much. We know who Mia is, but we can't say because it might jeopardize the actual case. Sabrina Dawkins Matlock, welcome to the Tattletose family. And Jim,
how can it jeopardize the case?
Thank you so much for the super chat. I think about 80% of you guys know who Mia actually is, though, but we're not going to say a name. Anyway, at the Prince party, Diddy forbid Cassie from going to a party and told Mia that he needed to babysit her. Again, RICO, coercion, forfeiture, using staff. Connie Cruz said, you remind me of my great-great-granddaughter. I love you. My great-granddaughter. I love you both for pray. Thank you for JG or both daily. Thank you.
Mia
also,
said
really
Diddy
quick, Jackie B said, how did the problematic juror act during Mia's testimony? So I gotta be honest with you, Mia's testimony has not got to the nitty-gritty. It's been a little shocking, but we're about to get into the bad part. They spent all day laying foundation, which I'm not gonna lie, it was a little boring. But right before lunch, they started getting into like the really dark stuff. Anyway,
I thought you
here's
was
the
gonna
thing.
make excuses
Diddy
again.
at Prince's party, Cassie wasn't supposed to be there. Like, he treated Cassie like she was like a slave. Cassie, according to Diddy, wasn't going to be there. Mia and Cassie said they debated for hours, like little kids, like, should we go, should we go? They decided to go to Prince's party. They were having fun, jumping on the couch. Prince gave an intimate little, a performance, right? And then
I thought you two was gonna make excuses for it. Pressure. I was waiting to see what you was gonna say.
Diddy ran
Is that not forced labor?
Jumps on her, started beating the crap out of her. But they said, I'm like Diddy's punk ass security and do nothing but watch and hold people back, right? And then tell Cassie to pack her shit. Princess Security promptly intervened, pulled Diddy off of Cassie and told Diddy to get the F out of here. What are you doing?
So he pulled the stunt there,
right? And then Diddy walked in with a bucket hat, right? Cassie took off. Diddy ran her down at Prince's house, jumps in her and started beating the crap out of her. But they said, I'm like Diddy's punk ass security and do nothing but watch and hold people back, right? And then tell Cassie to pack her shit. Princess Security promptly intervened, pulled Diddy off of Cassie and told Diddy he had to get the F out of here. What are you doing? That's what real security does. Jackie B said, okay, Jackie, so that's how the problematic jury we're seeing, I'm going to go back in and scope the jury, but they are reacting. Also, Stephanie Sanchez said, girl, TMZ needs to
Prince
hire
talked
you. You're
about,
gorgeous, very intelligent, and handle your haters with grace. Stay
they
safe, God
talked
bless.
about that. That's when he found out that there was somebody in the industry that was forcing. He wanted people to tell them if they had been forced.
Lady Liberty Tisa, hold your torture, truth, and integrity
found
strong.
out.
Love you. Thanks so much. Enforcer LaBelle Satisa, your name is talked about a lot in my house. Oh, thank you. As our favorite news person, we enjoy watching.
Y'all sure this not Laura
you
London?
do every day. Thank you. Lucy Garcia, thank you so much. Mama 3 Boys said it's the guy from Day 26 Q. Making the band, going to testify. I seen a video of them yesterday telling what happened to him. Keep up the good work, Mama. Keep shining. God bless you. Thank you so much. So also, when it comes to Q, we don't know, but I know that the government has said that they don't want to actually get people that have made a lot of media statements to actually testify. And most of the people that are testifying, they've been on a media blockade. So the fact that Q went on Aubrey's show, which was really shady of Aubrey, because why the hell would you actually push this narrative while Diddy is on trial? I don't know what's wrong with Aubrey. I don't know if she's a hater. I don't know if she's just mad that she's still mad at Dawn, that she's the one that got pulled out even though she was living in hell. I don't know if she got paid off from Diddy and she's doing this. I really honestly don't know what's up, Aubrey, but it was not the time to start this mess and imply that Dawn was the mastermind. It was just really, really weird. Anyway, and it let me know that that Aubrey on a certain level, you don't really care what's going on with the trial. You've been talking all this stuff. You never gave information. Now that you're not testifying, you can give up the tapes of what Diddy did to you. You never gave up any information. You said you were going to expose Diddy. You said you were going to testify. And again, it's her choice, but none of that happened. And now you are literally running counter operatives. It's very, very weird. Yeah. Anyway, Red Raven 33
because I'm looking at her crazy too.
Carter will appear. He's an evil man thinking money will buy abuse. It's sad. I don't know if Ali Carter will appear. Again, the Fed said if anybody said too much to the media, they're not really going to use them, not because they're not telling the truth necessarily, but because they don't want the media spectacle that Diddy's team will turn it into. You know what I'm saying? Valentine TV said, I thank God you're in the courthouse so we can get the true happenings. Thank you. Coach B, the CEO, said, for your commitment, thank you. Jessica Marie, thank you so much for the super chat. Oh, also, C. Rich, thank you for the super chat. Food said, coffee is on me, sis. Thank you. Would love to buy you some breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then some for your outstanding work. But the way the economy is set up, I know, tears. Listen, I thank everybody for the super chats, for going that extra mile. And for the people that can't super chat, I really just appreciate you even giving me some of your time. Diane Lander said, thank you for giving us a snap, crackle, and pop daily with so much passion. We love you, Tisa. Thank you. And April Love, thank you so much for the super chat. All right? Listen, you guys.
What is it called?
Listen. Again, I'm not criticizing Aubrey because at the end of the day, she went through hell and everybody can go. I find it shocking that at this point she claims she wants to make sure Diddy's held accountable and she's doing dumb interviews with Q, trying to literally paint Dawn in a bad light. And you know that Dawn had a really, really, really hard day of testimony. It's really just a I don't know. It's just weird
so she live now.
And I would say that Aubrey, like, dummy, why you doing this? But Aubrey ain't hardly stupid. So again, it really makes me think. It really just makes me think, like, what was Aubrey's goal? And even if it was
sabotage,
to kind of, like, stick it to Dawn, because she's always had this weird beef that Dawn left Dignity Kane and did something else, even though she had.
Hold on, what's she talking about now?
Noticing new $40,000.
Yeah, Aubrey O'Day's been a hater.
With no two.
It's really close to her. And the whole time she was like, ugh, I don't want it. So this was her. And this was Diddy. Yep. Out through Deonte and also through Mia, that is the alien. Guys, how y'all doing today, baby? We get on safely. But we have, y'all, today was such a devastating day in the courtroom. Again, for anybody that thinks that the government don't got Diddy, they 100% do. But you know what is interesting? It has been exposed through this day of trial through Deonte and also through Mia, that is the alias, that the whole industry knew what Diddy was up to, and it looked like the whole industry didn't care.
Yeah, I mean, we can tell that by
Diddy, Molly walked Cassie, nobody did anything. Mia's assistant was horribly insulted by Diddy in fear of her life. Who was around her? His security and Swiss Beat. why the industry is so silent with Diddy, because everybody saw what Diddy was up to, and nobody wanted to do a thing to stop it. Y'all, this is actually wild. Let's get into this, right? But first, my lip chit chat. Hold on, guys. I can't find my bliss text, so y'all go. Let's get into this. I was live in court. Again, it was heavy energy in court. It was weird energy in court. It felt dirty. It felt unseemly. But you know what? That's the way you feel when Diddy is around. It feels dirty. It feels unseemly. It feels weird. Y'all, Mia let out. Mia let out so much information, but I'm beginning to see
big time
the whole industry
narcissist.
knew what Diddy was up to. The whole industry didn't care. Everybody just let this man do what he wanted. Y'all, let's get into this. On top of this, Mia has 100% proven the government's thing of RICO, coercion, violence, because you need violence, you need coercion, you need control, and didn't even kiss his companies goodbye, because half the stuff he was doing, he was putting the apartments, the cars, the employees that would chase Mia down, chase Cassie down. It was all on Combs Global. Do you realize how devastating this is? Again, just like Al Capone, all he had to do was pay his taxes, and he'd probably still be spilling blood all over Chicago streets. All Diddy had to do was, you know, the funny thing is, I was talking, let me just tell you this before I get into Mia's devastating testimony, and Swiss beat sitting and watching a woman being assaulted with a laptop. Diddy also told this girl, yo, you better go to IHOP right now and get everybody food, right? And she was like, okay, I just need to go into my room and change she was on her, I don't even know if I can say it, YouTube will probably demonetize me. But she was on that type of a month. She said, I just had to, change my tampon. Diddy was eating a bowl of spaghetti, and around that time, Diddy was heavier, and he ain't need spaghetti. Diddy was drinking a bowl of spaghetti, and he literally grabbed them, right? He literally took the bowl of spaghetti. First of all, he berated her. He screamed at her. He humiliated her, called her stupid, dumb, all this stuff. They said blood started dripping down her leg. How embarrassing. You're literally at work. You're sitting on another errand. You have all this responsibility. You are being SA'd at the whim. Blood starts pouring down your leg because he won't even let you go to the bathroom to change it. While that happened, instead of him being like, oh my God, I'm sorry, this and that, you know what this fool does? He literally picks up the bowl of spaghetti his chunky self is eating, and I say that as somebody that can stand to miss a meal now and then, right? And threw that bowl of spaghetti on her. So now she got spaghetti dripping down the walls. It barely missed her, but she was in fear. What did she do? And he knew that she said that she felt like he was about to jump on her. She literally went and ran and hid in the bushes. How big are Diddy's bushes? Because they said Cassie did the same thing. Ran and hid in the bushes. She said she ran and hid in the bushes, and then she had to check into a hotel room. Y'all, Diddy was a monster, and
now they say they looking like she is
loved
lying.
people becoming depraved. It was actually a sickness if you think about this. Listen. Anyway, Shay, I was talking to a young lady today in
It says Mia brought the courtroom to tears today.
This literally goes into like the disappointment a lot of people feeling Diddy, but also the way Diddy has weird fans that are following him to the very end, okay? Divine Spiritual said, thank you, Tisa, for giving us all the tea. You're welcome. So it was just like, it was a weird information.
So I wonder, is it this
like,
girl I had
what she gave. Here's what she said, right?
Yesterday.
She said she remembers that Diddy was giving an interview on something, I think it was Revolt TV, and he was talking about his childhood, right? Renata Johnston said, my girl, stay with the scoop, baby. I in court all day, even when things get so dark and heavy and just yucky.
So is it KK?
Ugh, just yucky. But you get it, right?
Is it KK, y'all?
Diddy said on Revolt TV when he was celebrating the whole thing of Revolt and celebrating things, he said, I grew up with rats, right? He said, I grew up with rats in my house, rats dancing on her. He said, when he said that, he said, I grew up with rats, and I am never going back to that place again. I will never put myself in a position where I don't have control, and I'm back to living with rats. And she said, it's so ironic that the thing he wanted to avoid the most, I never want to go back to a place where I'm sharing space with rats, to living in that type of situation where I didn't have any control, where I lost control. I never want to go back. It's so interesting that she said, but at the end of the day, he put himself in that situation. The one thing he wanted to avoid, the one thing he didn't want to, being around rats, being out of control, being in dire circumstances, that's exactly where he is now at the MDC, literally probably torturing the rats and roaches. And again, I was talking to her, I was like, Shay, you're right, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And she said, no, Tisa, I think it goes different than that. Diddy had a trajectory. It wasn't just the money. Yes, his trajectory was taking him the money, but he had a trajectory. There wasn't just the money. There was something, right? She said she felt like he was blessed. He was ordained. He had a trajectory to fulfill something, to help bring light into people's lives, to take that energy and spread it around and help uplift people. And instead, he wasted it. He wasted it. Oh, Cassandra Bogan, thank you so much for the for the cash app. He wasted it. He wasted that energy, that magic. He wasted it on freak offs. He wasted it on beating people. He wasted it on using that power that you can say he was blessed with, that he found, that he got, whatever you believed in. He was that something special that made him, that drew everybody, that allowed him to build that empire. He decided to use that money for the empire, and he used it to hurt others, to cower over others, to use people like ragdolls. He used that, whatever you want to say he had, to make everybody feel as tiny, small, insignificant, and worthless as he felt growing up with rats around him, and he felt growing up with rats and roaches around him, and he felt growing up feeling small and insignificant. Shay said he must feel furious and angry, right? Okay, that wasn't Shay, that was me. Let me stop putting Shay's name in the stuff. But I took notes. I was like, he must feel furious and angry that the one thing he wanted to avoid, he did a self-fulfilling prophecy. And now toward the end of his life, he's in a situation that he ran so far from. Why? Because instead of spreading light and moving past his trauma, he decided that he was going to make everybody feel as worthless as he felt back then. And I literally was like, Diddy must feel so furious, so angry. But again, this is how you count. You know, it's kind of like they say that there's forgiveness for everything. I don't believe that. But there is forgiveness if you, but the first part of forgiveness is truly understanding what you did wrong. And when you look at Diddy, he's furious and angry, and you can see that in the court. But he still hasn't blamed himself. He still hasn't turned a mirror on himself. He still hasn't said, right? He hasn't put a mirror on himself, and he still hasn't, hold on, y'all. He still hasn't said, right? He still hasn't said that I take accountability. It was me. It was something sick. It was something twisted. It was something dark. But I take accountability, right? And on top of that, when the feds were investigating him, according to the feds, he was in New York trying to be on some hooligan shit, making people afraid to testify. And it might have worked because look at Dina. And you were still doing free calls. Where's the introspection? Where is when you said, you know what? Okay, this is what we're going to do, you know? So anyway, right? Also, he had a horrible day. All the motions to dismiss he had when he said, I want the doctor's testimony stricken. I want Kid Cudi's testimony stricken. I want Cassie's testimony stricken. Matter of fact, you know who else testified? He said, I want Deonte's testimony stricken. And we were like, but Deonte didn't even finish testifying, and the judge looked at it and said, no. Anyway, counselors, y'all can move on. Shame to Blame, 1971 said, what's up? How you doing? Thank you so much for a super chat. Diddy's team also tried to get this scrapbook passed around. There was a scrapbook that somebody had made of all this mess about his Mia had made him 3 scrapbooks about everything he thought was amazing and everything. They wanted to pass that around. The judge was like, no, but you can go, you can leap through it. Anyway, Doree Angel said, welcome, that surprise witness family. What's up, guys? Coach Elisa, what's up? What's up? Welcome. Listen, oh my God, welcome. Shout out to BJ, the surprise witness. Thank you so much. We are big fans of BJ Investigate. So, Deonte. Oh, so I'll go into the Deonte stuff later, but get this. Let's jump into the essay, right? Because the girl said, let me know when you're ready. So the girl said, right, that, I know, it's still early, but still. So the girl said that, so the girl jumped into, she was first setting up a lot of pregame. We're going to get into that maybe in a later live. I'm going to move into the bulk of what she was saying, right? She basically said that Diddy, the whole time she was working for him, not only was he SAing her whatever he wanted, and it sounded like he put something in two Ciroc vodka shots the first time it happened. But even when it happened, she didn't know what to do, and he kept telling her that if you don't let me keep doing it, right, that he was going to tell Cassie, because he said Cassie was like his sister. He was going to tell Cassie what she'd been doing, and she was going to be cut out, kicked out the Bappo family, this and that. At the end of the day, she also had issues with wanting to feel a part of a family. One thing, Diddy was very good at actually identifying people that needed to feel part of a family. MC said, I believe Daphne Joy deactivated her IG. Thoughts? I wonder if Daphne Joy is victim number 2. I wonder. MG said, T said, that surprise witness is showing you love and send her watches over here. Oh, shout out to BJ Investigates, that surprise witness. Make sure y'all show her love right back. Even though I think y'all know her before y'all know me, but still, show some love. LM, thank you so much for the super chat. And Tiff G Baby, thank you so much for the super chat. Shout out to the surprise witness. Shout out to BJ. You said BJ Raid. Yo, ain't nothing like DJ, but that said the twang. Love it. Here's what she said. She essayed her multiple times. She said she never wanted it. It was sporadic, meaning that it didn't happen every day, but it happened enough that she was living on edge. She said every time it happened, Cassie was not there, and the side Jones were not there either. Okay? They said the first time, Donna Mae said, I'm 71 years old. I appreciate your honesty and integrity. Thank you. And it's refreshing in today's times. God bless you and keep up the good work. Thank you so much, you guys. So get this. She said that the first essay happened at the Plaza Hotel for Diddy's 40th birthday. She was only working for Diddy for a few months. Cassie was not there. They had a penthouse suite, and he also had, I think it's called the Garden. That's the first floor when you walk into the Plaza Hotel, right? See ya, mama. She said there were a lot of people there. There were guests, there were celebrities, there were workers, but there was no Cassie. Diddy literally said, yo, can I speak to you in the kitchen? So this is her boss, and this is her dream job. She said, all right, right? So she's like, okay. And he told everyone in the kitchen to leave because he had to speak to Mia. He said, yo, you're doing a good job. And she's like, thank you. And he said, yo, but I don't want you to be nervous and scared of me, right? I don't want you to be nervous and scared to talk to me. Because prior to that, there was somebody named Malcolm. That was the only personal assistant that was left. And Malcolm would be the one she talked to instead of going straight to Diddy, right? Nicole A said, between you and BJ, I get the best info. Shout out. Thank y'all. They said, now, she said, he said, and I want you to know we're going to be working closer together, right? And he gave her 2 vodka shots to drink. Now, she said that she doesn't recall drinking earlier that night. You know, she was in her 20s. She partied a lot in New York City. So she knows the effect that 2 vodka shots would have had on her, right? And I put with a shots rug because when she said that the shots were, when she took the shots, she said a short while later, it hit her like, whoa, like, why is these shots hitting me so bad, right? Laura Frank said, Tisa, love you. You need a break. Come on over to Jersey City. I got you. Appreciate you. Oh, thank y'all. Make sure y'all hit the like button too. So then she said when the shots started hitting her, and she was like, oh my God, like what was in that? She said Diddy got real close, right? Really close. He said he got his face really close to her. And the whole time she was like, ugh, I don't want it. So this was her. And this was Diddy. Yo, you don't gotta be afraid to talk to me. And she was like, right? You know when somebody pushes up on you that you are like, please back up. But it's her boss. She said around that time the shots were hitting her. And she said
was
at
white
that
with
time,
blonde hair.
she was just like, am I imagining this? Because it seems like he's being creepy, right? Linda Martinez said, get it, Tisa. So his face was all closed. Yo, what's up? You ain't gotta be afraid. You ain't gotta be afraid. She was just like, right? And he's like, yo, come talk to me when you want, just me and you. And talk directly, right? And she said, and then he went in to kiss her, like, and she was like, she said she didn't want it. I said, I feel you. And then he put his hand up her dress. He went in to kiss her.
Like
and put
Trump.
his hand up her dress, right? Moon McDaniel, thank you so much for the membership. And Katie Aldina said, God bless you, Tisa. You're loved and respected. Oh, thank you, right? So then, and listen, so you got to think, this was her employer. He was a mogul. He ran the industry. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance for the dream job that she wanted. And on top of that, she's feeling like, true.
Y'all sure it's not her?
Gain Love Life Worldwide said,
Are we sure it's not her?
so Gain Love Life Worldwide said there wasn't light or power, just control and power. I remember interviewing with Motown for Andre Harrell and was told my life is no longer my own, like a slave, and I took the job. And Kathy Vogue, thank you so much for the super chat. And I could live, and if I could live with it, they could get a job. And you said, no, I just withdrew. Gain Love Life Worldwide, LC, that's exactly the way she's talking about it. Antoine Davis said, I feel like the prosecution proved Diddy had authority over the police. The female officer was fanning out over a phone call from Diddy. Exactly. Everybody knew that Diddy had something heavy in LA. Now, if it was control, I don't know, but it seemed like something was funny was going on there.
That's RBO Day.
Sue me. Anyway, Sean, the photographer, said, thanks for keeping us up to date. You welcome, right? So anyway, he put his hand up. She said the next thing she knew, now when that happened, Janice Combs did something weird. She was in the thing, she turned around and mumbled something to Diddy's uncle. Now, it could have been about the testimony, or she could have just been disgusted, and she thinks this girl's lying on her child. But she literally mumbled something. Miss V B Real said, have a slice of pizza on me, Tisa. Thank you so much, Miss V. And yes, that is the price of a slice of pizza in 2025 in America, unfortunately. Table Talk with Mimi exclusive said, will LAPD be held accountable? Well, it's funny that you say that. I have heard rumblings that there are state investigations into Diddy. I have heard rumblings, but again, they are rumblings, and I don't want to say too much more about it, but I have heard something. Because the government is like, okay, even if you do get federal, and let's just say you so even if you do get federal, or it could be someone else, even if you do get federal, sorry, my phone keeps going off. Even if you do get federal, and let's just say you do pardon, even though I don't see why Trump would pardon Diddy, especially because he linked up politically with Ben Masalas from the Midas Touch and Mark Garagos, and it was rumored they were behind the whole Stormy Daniels Michael Avenatti thing when they were trying to get Trump impeached, right? So should we go? Okay, so hold on, I'm gonna have to walk and talk, right? So I don't think that Diddy
Is this her?
Pardon, but if Diddy
Is this her pressure? Hi, Barbara.
State crimes, I don't think Trump will. I don't see why he would.
Is this Sarah?
Like Trump, he keep a grudge. Just like I heard Diddy keeps a grudge too, you know? I hope he go to jail. Y'all don't want me dipping and diving, reporting live from the back of a fern bush, right? Anyway, Pam Bassett said, Tisa, I love your reactive addition. Diddy pushing up on Mia, right? So Mia said when it happened, she froze. She really didn't know what to do, right? And then she couldn't process it, right? Cash App, Kathy Vogue, thank you so much. She said Trump is not pardoning Diddy. I agree with you, but hey, what's up, mama? How are you doing? Look what we got. We got to do lunch. I'm literally texting. We got to do lunch, okay? All right. So anyway, all right. So my Aloha 82 said, appreciate it. Thanks and hi from Germany. Hello. Brenda La Cruz said, Diddy does not seem concerned because he's counting on Trump. 1 second. Because he's counting on Trump to pardon him. Hold on really quick, y'all. That was so somebody said Diddy's not seem concerned because he is counting on the Trump to pardon him. It is sick. Oh, no. I very much disagree. Hey.
I thought I just did that.
Yeah, what's up? Hold on, guys. We're in the thing. Hey, what's up?
Girl, I wish your IG.
What's that?
What's your IG?
Oh, Tisa Tells. TISATELLS. Okay. So anyway, no, y'all talking about Diddy didn't seem concerned. Diddy was upset. He was bothered. He was hot. And it was a hot mess, can I tell you. Diddy is 100% concerned. Don't let these people talk about he was cool and collected. He was not. He was concerned. He was upset. And baby, we'd love to see it. All right? Hey, how are you? So, okay. So, Okay, so sorry, on live. So Diddy was really, really concerned. Hold on, y'all. Y'all know what the deal is. Okay, so anyway, okay, so let's get into this, okay? So anyway, De La Cruz, blah, 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 blah. So Ali, what am I? Ali Alexandra said, hey, y'all stop and hit the like button. Double tap for like. Also, Wanda Perez said, what was the jury's mood when Mia cried in the stand after speaking about SA? The jury's mood, it was a really disgusting, gross day. Like, it was just a disgusting, gross day. I literally was talking to a few people, and I was like, I feel like I need to go home, take a shower, maybe an Epsom salt bath, and put a bathrobe on. Like, it was really, really gross. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know how to describe it, but it was just gross. Everything was gross. Everything. You mind turning that down? So it was just really, really gross. So Nevitz Nomek said state crimes, yes, on the marriage, but they could be planning to exhaust his money. Good for his ass. Yeah, but that's the thing with Diddy. I feel like Diddy will find a new way to make money. I really do feel like Diddy will find a way to make money. Sonia M said, don't forget that Tang. Trump can be bought. I don't know if Diddy has enough money to buy the president of the United States. I really, honestly don't know if he has enough money to buy the president of the United States. We are leaving the courthouse right now. I think I'm going to start filming on the steps of the courthouse. What do y'all think? I think so. I think I'm going to start filming on the steps of the courthouse, but I don't know. Or did y'all like the little side thing? Put a 1 in the comments if you like exactly in front, or put a 2 in the comments if you would like to see. You don't care where I film as long as I'm in court and I film somewhere around. Ricardo Lewison said, Tisa, your New York only sources in this case. Do you think Lori Ann or Farnsworth will testify? They've been silent in the media. I 100% believe that. You know what? I'm going to talk about that in a different live because my New York sources are telling me 2 different things. I do believe that Lorianne will testify in a limited capacity to go against Capricorn Clark's testimony. And Farnsworth, I don't know. I know he tweeted a while back. He said, when I get nervous. Don't we have a bad pressure? When I get nervous, I stop talking. I said, that sounds like a payoff to me. Anyway, let's get back into Mia's essay. When we last stopped, like last checked on our beleaguered heroin, mouth breather was pushing up on her. Okay, so wait, where's my thing? Where's my thing? Hold on, y'all. Here we go. Okay, I got my stuff. Again, people saying Diddy's going to buy off Trump. I do not believe Diddy has enough money to buy off Trump. He is now the president of the United States. Whether you guys don't care where I go. Okay, it's a lot of 2s. Dell said, guilty or free, Diddy will be in prison forever. Also, Alicia Stevenson said, Tisa, you're doing an awesome job. Coffee on me. Thank y'all so much. Also, the legendary Kind, thank you for gifting a membership. Okay. So anyway, when we last left Mia, Diddy was like, yo, you ain't got it. Don't worry. I got you. Mia was like trying to like climb over the kitchen counter. He put his hand up. She said the next, Jasmine, fine. Thank you so much for doing the Tattletails family. So anyway, Mia said she froze. She couldn't process. Next thing she remembers, she was sitting on the chair, sleeping on the chair. She woke up. The sun was coming up. She did say she was fully clothed. And she said, they're like, what did you think? She's like, he's my boss. He's the most powerful man in the record label. And she said, he wasn't as old enough to be my father, but I really looked at him as a father, adult authority figure. Again, everybody that Diddy had working for him, he literally had them like on some like they all had a primal need for a strong, domineering father type role, and he would play that, but then he would punish you mercilessly too. So when you wrap that need, that primal need for like a parental, and then you wrap that into someone that's abusive, but then also someone that can really make all your dreams come true. And let's not forget, Diddy always got with talented people.
$50 million bond and allowed to await his trial from his luxury home.
Let me see something.
Senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky has the latest.
This morning, Sean Diddy Combs is behind bars, locked up on racketeering and sex trafficking charges that make the music mogul sound like a monster.
Between at least 2008
did so
and the
much
present,
to people mentally,
Combs
physically,
abused,
emotionally.
threatened,
To
and
kids
coerced
too.
victims to fulfill his sexual
Will need
desires,
a pardon.
protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
Capricorn Clark has already been on the stand.
His arrest is being held without bail. With several of his children watching in court, Combs pleaded not guilty to charges he led a criminal enterprise that subjected young women to violence, use of firearms, threats, coercion, and verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. The 14-page manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male prostitutes called freak-offs.
He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral.
They saying Susie Siegel. I'm trying to see. Because I seen one picture of somebody with dark hair and one with blonde hair.
March on Diddy's homes in Miami and Los Angeles. The indictment describes aggressive, open, violent, hedonistic abuse that you say was recurrent and widely known. Why did it take law enforcement so long to intervene? How many women were victimized
and men
by Sean Combs,
and children?
How many others were involved?
Look, our investigation is ongoing. We are committed to bringing justice to everyone who's been victimized by the defendant. I can't tell you why it took so long. I think the better focus is on the fact that we are here today, and we are committed to making sure that justice is done.
His attorney promising a vigorous defense, saying those freak-offs were nothing more than consenting adults experiencing intimacy.
I'm going to fight like hell to get him released, and he should be released with all that he's done and coming here voluntarily.
Combs has been the focus of a criminal investigation since former girlfriend and singer Cassie Ventura sued him for sexual and physical abuse. Diddy settling a day later without admitting wrongdoing. But the criminal charges include a description of this violent 2016 video obtained by CNN. Combs seen throwing Cassie to the ground and kicking her. He issued this apology shortly after.
I hit rock bottom.
744 people voted that they have proved their case, racketeering and RICO. 63%.
Her former boss is finally being held accountable.
He thought that all the money
Okay, hold on.
accumulated over all these years.
Hold on. Who is she? Hold on.
Reality show, I Want to Work for Diddy. And she says, although she never witnessed abuse,
but I make no excuses.
You do.
Susie Siegel was Diddy's assistant from 2008 to...
But I make no excuses.
Susie Siegel was Diddy's assistant from 2008 to 2009 after winning the reality show I Want to Work for Diddy. And she says, although she never witnessed abuse, her former boss is finally being held accountable.
He thought that all the money that he has accumulated over all these years could potentially shield him. Justice is actually being served. It took a while, but it is being served.
The judge said she was concerned that this is a crime that happens behind closed doors, so she ordered Combs into custody. He's appealing and will return.
I did. Okay, let me try it again.
He faces decades in prison.
Hold on, let me try again.
Getting it together with Drea said, do you think that Diddy could be trying maybe to get a pardon, maybe through Kim Kardashian, since she's turning Republican? Kim is Republican. And if you're Republican, don't start no mess. I don't want to hear any political arguments. But I will say, absolutely, I think that he is pulling everything he can with Kim and Chris to get on Trump's radar. But I don't think Kim has that much pull with Trump. But I do think she has a lot of approval with Ivanka. And Ivanka got a lot of pull with her dad, but I still don't see why or how Trump would do that. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, right? Okay, so then she said she hoped it would never happen again, but there was a second time. She was supposed to go up to Diddy's apartment and drop bags. She was with Uncle Paulie. And when she was going to drop the bags, he said something really weird to her along the lines of like, yo, be careful. I've seen this before. And she was like, seen what before? And she said when she went to go drop the bags, Diddy was in the foyer, right? And she came to drop the bags, right? And he literally said, yo, can you pull some stuff up for me on the computer? Trisha H said, XOXO, we love the cover you give. Also, we need the deep dives, but I know you're exhausted. I am going to start doing deep dives. Listen, don't worry. We're going to get this together, right? he literally said, go pull up some stuff on the computer for me. And she said the living room was small and it was a U-shaped couch. So she sat on the couch because the laptop was on the end and she started pulling the information up. And then Diddy leaned real close to her, right? She said she was sitting there like typing, like, right? And then Diddy leaned in really close. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, Diddy is a predator because you know, like guys that are used to taking liberties, they study it. It's like they break down your personal space little by little. So she said that Diddy leaned real close to her. It made her feel super uncomfortable. And all her alarm bells were going off. And she thought about what Uncle Paulie had told her, right? So then all of a sudden, she ran to the bathroom, right? Because she didn't know what to do. So she ran to the bathroom. And when she came back out, Diddy was like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. And they're like, what did you feel? And she said, yo, I felt like I was like imagining things. Like I literally was like, man, I'm just I'm being stupid. Uncle Paulie was telling a joke. I was imagining things. Why would Diddy be trying to do this, right? So then, right, she said that the next thing she knows, she had to sleep over at the house, right? This isn't a separate occasion. And this is the second time, right? But the other one was a precursor to the second time. And she had to sleep in the upstairs room. The upstairs room had bunk beds in it. He was literally operating like making of the band.
You're not talking about the Sarah and making of the band, are you?
They said because Diddy said, this is my house, and you're not allowed to lock the doors in my house. Interestingly enough, Dawn testified the same thing too, that she had to push furniture up against the door when she was with Diddy and Dirty Money because Diddy demanded that you can't have, Diddy literally demanded that you can't have, you can't lock doors in his house, right? So she said she woke up with the weight of Diddy on top of her. And he was telling her, shh, be quiet. And using one hand to keep her quiet, right? And his other hand, he took his, and he put, she said she just froze. She was,
this is her.
She did say, and here's the thing, it was very sad testimony, but then the next thing she said it was very quick. And I wrote right next to it, lol, he ain't beating those Tootsie Roll charges anytime soon. Shut up, it was dark testimony. I had to do something to, like, lighten the mood. But she kept saying every time that he assaulted her, the one thing she kept saying was it was super quick, right? She said that even though it was very, very quick, it felt like forever. And she said she doesn't remember how it ended because she blocked it out. The third time, she was at the Beverly Hills house, right? She was in the bedroom closet on the floor. She was helping Diddy pack. A lot of people were coming in and out of the bedroom. Diddy, the next thing she knew, Diddy came into the closet. She said that she didn't know it was Diddy at that time because a lot of people were coming back and forth. She said that she was standing, all of a sudden she looked and Diddy was standing in front of her face, right? And he started stroking her face. And then he took his blank in his hands and grabbed her head and pushed it in her. She was frozen. He forced her to give him sloppy toppy. She said she couldn't do anything. And she said that she felt like trash, complete and utter trash. She was scared and she was ashamed, but she felt defeated and like an idiot because why did she keep letting this happen? And she felt like it was very fast. There was no talking, didn't. She was just like, whatever. She said the fourth time, she said there were multiple times, but after that she started blacking it out. She just remembered that there was horrible, dark memories surrounding certain things in certain places. She said one time she was flying on a private jet. Now the private jet was the sitting area, then it was the bedroom, then it was the bathroom, right? And everybody would go through the bedroom to go and use the bathroom. She said it was the middle of the night, everybody was sleeping. She couldn't hold it anymore. She got up and she went to go use the bathroom. She tried to leave, she used the bathroom and she was coming out. Diddy was just standing there, okay? He tried to push her back in the bathroom. She was like, no, what are you doing? What are you doing, right? And she said that she couldn't distract Diddy, even though there were others around. He still did this. He still did the thing. But she said there was countless times. She said she never initiated, right? She never wanted to have sex with him. She said there was no pattern to it. It was really when he just felt like it. She said it was always when Cassie or the other girlfriends were gone. She couldn't predict it. Diddy had zero boundaries, right? And she was just like, she didn't understand it. He had zero boundaries, but nobody in his camp had any boundaries. She said Diddy would just tell her to keep it moving. Shame to blame 1971. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Live Your Truth said, thank you for your time and your updates. The world needs your goodness and voice. Oh, thank you guys. I really appreciate this, right? So she also said that, hold on, there's more that she said. Just getting through the super chats. Rhonda Jameson said, I love your TT, said thank you. And Violet Grace said, thank you for what you do. Amazing work. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank y'all for sitting through this commercial break. And thank you for everybody for the super chats and the people that can listen. Anyway, she said she would just be told to keep it moving. That was a Diddy phase. She said that every time it happens, she don't remember being on drugs. So there goes his drug defense. Tracy Steiner said, keep up the great reporting. Thank you so much. She said she never wanted to. She could never tell him no, or she knew she would be a target. They would fire her, and then they would ruin her future with some fake story, some twisted story that Diddy made up. They would make her look like a threat, and she knew his power and control, and she didn't want to lose what she had built, and she didn't want to be blackballed from the industry, right? Because she said, I saw what he did with Capricorn Clark, and I knew he would do the same thing to me. Ashley Rodriguez said, Tisa, you the GOAT. Thank you so much, Ashley. She said that he threatened her sometimes. Whenever she would deny him, he would be like, yo, I'm going to tell everyone what we've been doing, and I'm going to tell Cassie, and Cassie's going to know, because she said Cassie was like a sister to her. Yeah, and he said, I'm going to tell everybody. Also, Iram said, I don't want no Minute Man. She said, I'm going to tell everyone and Cassie, right? And she said that he was going to tell everybody that she has something to do with it, and that it was all her fault, so she never told anybody. She said that she knew she would be silenced. She knew that she'd be punished. She knew she'd be exiled from a second family, the only world she knew. She said his whole company would mobilize against her. They said, why don't you go to HR? She said HR was always there to punish them. Every time Diddy did something, HR was telling her. One time that she helped Cassie, while Cassie was being beat, HR called her after the Prince thing and said, yeah, you're going on unpaid leave because Diddy, and she tried to tell her what happened. The HR didn't care. Conscious Creator, thank you so much for the super chat, right? She said, and also who would believe
so
her?
this is possibly Mia.
PA that spoke out when Cassie got beat really, really bad, right? And she said,
yeah, I'm almost out of juice.
Kayla, right? When that happened, she said that Kayla spoke up on the Kayla had spoken up and said to HR, yo, I think Cassie is an abused woman and something needs to happen. They said that the chief of staff, the HR, and all the executives had a call about Kayla, right? They said we need to discuss Kayla. Because Kayla told the new chief of staff about what happened with Cassie. Eureka was the new chief of staff. They said Kayla was fired for speaking up. They should
have named
her
Karen.
And Diddy told her that if Kayla sued me for wrongful firing, Mia would have to testify. And Diddy told Mia what she would have to say. She would have to say that Kayla was this, Kayla was that, Kayla was lying, Kayla was twisting stories, right? There was even one time that Kayla forgot to pay a bill. Kayla was drinking in the office. She forgot to pay a bill. Kayla crumpled up the bill and threw it in Mia's face and then punched Mia in the face. She said that Kayla wasn't fired. Nobody cared. But she was fired after she said, yo, Cassie is an abused woman. She saw after Capricorn Clark was fired. She said it was a few years, she said that if Kayla sued him, Mia would have to get on the stand and lie and defend Diddy. Now, when they said that, I said, I wonder how everybody's defending Diddy on the stand now feels about that testimony. Jasmine Fry said, thank you for all you do. Oh, thank you, Jasmine, for the dinner. And Elianne said, dear Heavenly Father, I ask for a hedge of protection for Tisa. Thank you. I ask that Diddy and all others like him go down in Jesus' the mighty name. Thank you so much. She said that she 100% had to repeat what Diddy wanted her to say if he had to go to court. She said the police wasn't an option. On more than one time, the police fangirl Diddy. They were able to get out a lot of stuff by throwing Diddy's name around. She said even when the cops were aggressive, when they saw Diddy, they turned into fanboys and girls, right? Listen, they said, why didn't you tell anybody about the essay? She said,
they forgot all about it when they saw him.
I didn't talk about it the first time I went with the U.S. attorneys because she said I was so shameful. I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want anybody to know that I let myself be taken advantage of. She said that she was advised to get a lawyer. After she got a lawyer, the lawyer told her, you have to tell the U.S. attorneys anything they want. That's when she admitted what happened.
Okay, y'all, I'm going to have to be back. Come back. What time is it?
It's also a moral thing. I'm scared in the silence. And if you're scared in the silence,
I'm out of juice. I need to charge my phone up. Or use my other phone.
You know, Diddy's teams was like, objection.
What time is
of
it?
course, y'all
4.
object.
I'll be back around 6, y'all.
To tell the truth.
Please hit the like button.
She's finally here telling her story. She did not sue Diddy civilly. She didn't sue anything. She has nothing to gain. No one knew her story.